from our station, spinning 3,900 feet above the watery sphere.
I can see for miles and miles. I can see for miles and miles. I can see for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles.
This is Monitor Duty. I left my mic on mute like some kind of schmuck. Welcome, one and all to Wednesday to Monitor Duty. This is Reese signing on. Today I am joined by regulars, the Metal and Cartoonicus. And
stay tuned.
Jim Tuner says, I thought this was a long-awaited review of the Blankets prequel, Ginseng Roots. Is that real?
I don't know, and I don't actually really want to know.
Yeah, I think it's better like pretending it's a failed prequel.
I don't read horror, but for a second there, I thought I was literally in a horror novel hearing that sentence.
Yeah, Blankets sucks. Okay, so every once and again, I just have to stop and say that to myself. Oh, it is real. What? Oh, Jim, why would you say such a thing, even if it's true? Okay, I guess maybe the fact that it's true is enough reason to say it. Maybe that's true. So, anyhow, today we are not here to talk about Blankets or its prequel. We're here to talk about love. True love is what brings us together today. Specifically, I have a little Valentine's Day activity planned that's kind of a cross between a pageant and a quiz show and a guided discussion. So we have each of us, and we may be joined by others as the night goes on. We'll just have to see if it pans out or not. But the rules, such as it is, here, hang on a second. I got to bring up because I prepared visual aids, if you can believe that.
As long as the aids remain visual and not of the other sort.
Yes, they are merely...
Because those are also sometimes associated with Valentine's Day.
It can be indeed.
You know, Metal, I'm disappointed but not particularly surprised.
So, in our Valentine's Day challenge, we have all come to represent our favorite comic book couple. Now, by comic book couple, we are not limiting it to American superhero comics. We're saying all comics, right? And we are going to...
good, because I would have broken that rule anyway.
So
not even broken, I would have broken it.
Well, I think we all know your answer is going to be anime.
Manga.
Yeah,
manga.
Sorry.
Technically, let's get that straight.
Manga.
What a horrible beast that would be. Anyway.
Actually, there was not for a quick tangent, but there was a thing called animanga for a while where they would take the frames from a popular anime and they would basically put them back into panel form to redo the manga because they thought it looked better, apparently, just because it was color and not black and white. Personally, I thought they were inferior versions, but you could find some pretty fun ones like the Inuyasha animanga.
See, that would make sense if there had been, One Punch Man had gone directly from one's webcomic to a manga.
Or if it was something that was like animation first or something and never had a comic before.
Yeah.
They did some for Pokemon too, but it's like which Pokemon technically doesn't have source material because the Pokemon show is not an adaptation of the Pokemon Adventures manga.
Right.
So like that would make sense when they did it for that. But like something like Inuyasha was a long running manga first, like that
The-
you could
the
get
other-
it.
The other problem is one of the things that manga does so well is it's the so many mangaka are experts at using the comic language and
Mhm.
page layouts, right? For
Oh, yeah.
to get that action and that drama on the page, and just taking screenshots of an anime, you're not going to be able to recapture the layouts in as
Yeah.
engaging
No.
fashion.
But
Absolutely
I will
not.
say
But it was
this.
really popular with normies.
I will
Okay.
say this: if either of you have ever read Darths and Droids, there is something kind of interesting and charming to the, forced panel layout of what was once a screen.
Yeah, it can be done really well. I have seen that done really well, and or even places where you have a rigid, 6 or 9 panel grid
Mhm.
where they're not trying to be inventive or evocative. They're just trying to get the story across within these restrictions, and sometimes that actually can work really really well. Because I put them down, those mass market trades of the DC comics, Batman and Joker that I have had up here. I put them on my other shelf because I redid my background a little bit,
Mhm.
changed it up a little.
And to be fair, at least the ones that I read, they weren't just straight up like rectangular panels. They would do like some diagonal cuts and stuff and try to make
Okay.
it work, and maybe
Right.
even be kind of like close to the original layout of the manga that they were recreating using these panels.
Yeah.
But
And
it
actually,
still
that's a good
just wasn't
point
as strong.
because from what I've seen, so many anime that come from a manga, I mean, they try as close as
Oh, yeah, they'll
possible.
recreate some of the panels directly.
Yeah, to make
Those are
exact recreation of those panels.
So anyway, back to our game.
Yep.
So each of us are going to go ahead and bring forward our favorite comic book couple, married, dating, whatever, and then we're going to go through a series of questions, and we're going to discuss why we answer the questions and discuss why we think ours is the best, right?
Mhm.
And there may be some room for headcanon aspects. Some of the questions are things that they're like newlywed game style questions, some of them, and so there may not be an actual answer for them.
I might have the advantage here because not only is my favorite comic book couple the main characters of my favorite comic of all time, one of my favorite stories of all time too,
Mhm.
but the crux of them being a couple is the main point to the story, and they're affianced during the entirety of the story. So that probably puts me like in a position where even if the exact thing wasn't covered, something close enough was.
Right. And so, and that's the thing is like I've really been hoping that Michael could have joined us here, and I presumed that he would share with us Ralph and Sue Dibney, and he is I'm telling you guys, Hutch is the world expert on Ralph and Sue Dibney.
Well, I mean, to be
right.
fair, the pool is pretty small.
Yeah, there are a fairly limited number of
That'd
Ralph
be
and
like
Sue.
calling me the world expert on Captain N. It's like, yeah, well, that's not super impressive.
Fair enough. But anyway, so with that, I think now it is time to reveal who our comic couples are. So, since you've done so much teasing there,
Yes.
Metal,
Yeah.
go ahead and go first.
So from the same creator as Inuyasha, though I'm not picking Inuyasha and Kagome as my couple, it is Rumiko Takahashi's Ranma One Half, starring Ranma Saotome and Akane Tendo, who are affianced in literally the very first chapter of the series.
All right.
Against
Now-
their wishes.
Hey, Dutch. There you go.
Hey, Hutch, how's it going?
I had to reboot my computer. Sorry.
No worries, man. No worries. So, I will say, I'm going to repeat myself because you were not here for my speech unless you're watching the stream.
Okay, no, because I was rebooting my computer, so I wasn't watching.
So what we're doing, and I gave everybody a snippet of the game beforehand. But what we're doing is we're doing a pageant / guided conversation featuring our favorite comic book couple, and we're gonna go through a series of questions, and each of us are gonna answer for our couple, and then we're gonna discuss it as we go along. And there may be, I mentioned this, a little warning, there may be some room for invention or headcanon, because I'm going to ask some questions that might not be answers for, or that we might not know. I didn't give them the guys ahead of time to do any deep research to answer these questions. It's supposed to be off the cuff.
That's okay. I've watched Ranma 1/2 like 12 times, the original series, and I've read the manga all the way through like 7. So
now I do have to ask, does
Yes.
Ranma only count about half the time?
no, there are a couple even when he's a girl.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's awkward.
No,
Who are
kind of the point of the series.
So have we introduced all the couples already?
We have not. Only
just
Metal
mine.
has.
Okay, good.
And so, Metal, go ahead and give us a real elevator pitch style, maybe a little longer, really a skyscraper elevator pitch. Tell us about Ranma 1/2.
Okay, so Ranma 1/2, the entire point of the story is that the main character, or the titular character, because technically both aspects of the couple are the main characters, Ranma had returned from a training trip in China with his dad, but while they were in China, because his dad can't read any Chinese at all, they end up training at a cursed set of springs where they both fall in, and anytime either one of them are splashed with cold water, they turn into their respective cursed thing. Ranma fell into the spring of drowned girl, his dad into the spring of drowned panda. You need to splash them with hot water for them to turn back to their normal forms. But nobody at the Tendo household knows this until they show up. They just know that years ago, their fathers had promised that when they have a child, that they will be affianced to each other, right? So Genma had a boy, and Son Tendo had 3 girls, and Ranma comes back, oddly enough, with breasts, and like, I don't think you're a boy. And that complicated some things until they revealed their whole curse situation. But Son's like, this is no problem at all. You can have any one of my daughters. And they saddled him up with the one about his age, Akane, who is kind of a broody tomboy that likes martial arts and stuff, and is a tsundere. So she's like very, very hard loved, ends up hitting him a lot. And they have the classic jerk with a heart of gold and tsundere relationship, while both of them are constantly being pursued by other guys and girls.
Okay,
And
so
they have to deal
quick
with
question here, because of my extreme westernness. What on earth is a tsundere, whatever how you say
Okay,
it.
so dore kind of just it means like the heart or love, right?
Okay.
And tsun is the hard sound of hitting like a taiko drum. So it literally means hard love. This is like if you ever watched Hey Arnold, Helga Pataki, right? This is the character who likes the person but often doesn't want to admit it and gets really, really angry at the person that they like.
So every junior high girl. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
But like wrapped up into a stereotypical character, so you take it to the extreme.
Okay. Also, I did not tell anybody this ahead of time, but if you want to share photos of your couple, or if you can put that up there so we can see it for those of us who might not know, that's fine as well. Okay. Cartoonicus, who is your couple?
All right, I'm definitely going to put something up on the screen here. And some of you may love it. Some of you may hate it. This will be very interesting.
Is that the one over here?
Nope. Here
No, not that one. Okay.
we go.
Hank says he came in at the wrong time. Liz and John.
Yep.
All right.
Plenty of material out there, so
Okay.
And that's actually one of the things. Liz and John is a fascinating detail in Garfield history. because of the way that there have kind of been 3 sections of Garfield at this point. See, in the early days, who remembers Lyman?
I remember Lyman.
Yeah,
Right?
I remember Lyman,
He-
the original owner of Odie.
Right. He was John's roommate, and all of a sudden, one day, he just ceased to exist. There is rumor that he's tied up in John's basement somewhere, right?
Yeah, right.
I assume nobody liked him, and so they got rid of him. But honestly,
Yeah. It's not so bad that he wasn't no longer a character in the series, but they did the whole Chuck Cunningham thing where suddenly Odie was always John's.
right.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like Lyman, if not for one reason. He gave John somebody else to interact with on a human level, right? So there was kind of like a family going on. Lyman, John, Odie, Garfield. We had 2 different sides, right? And the deal was, in the early days, John was kind of just a pretty average, straight man kind of a character, not much to him. Lyman was kind of the loser friend, from college who shows up on your doorstep, crashes on your couches, and never leaves. So when Lyman disappeared, the loser stereotype fell to John.
Mhm.
And boy, did Jim Davis do a doozy on him, right? He'll always make the jokes about how he has fun counting his socks and stuff, right? And for years, that was it. This was just a story of
Flanderized him.
Flanderized him. Yep.
Yeah, it was a loser and his 2 animals. Now, that loser meant he couldn't get a date to save his life, right? And Liz suddenly became a much bigger character because she had shown up as the vet who John tried to get a date with a couple times. But when suddenly the emphasis on John being a loser who can't get a date was there, then Liz actually became a major character, and you were getting that story all the time. And we started getting hints where he'd trick her here and there to actually going out on a date with him. And it usually ends in disaster. But then one day there's kind of a weird semi-smittening there. And then they do the Garfield Thanksgiving special, and they push them a little bit in that direction there with that. And they kind of tease us with this. And then one day, the movie came out in the 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And now I may be one of the few people who actually like the live action movie.
I on balance like the movie. We actually recently rewatched it again as a family, but
it's weird because as a cartoon lover, I like it better than the actual animated version. The animated version wasn't bad. It's just half the time you're not actually watching Garfield, So I like the live action version. It definitely gets Garfield, but they made some bizarre choices, right? And how they portrayed some of the characters. I'm pretty sure the villain was supposed to be Binky originally, and I think they just probably decided they didn't want to actually make him the villain, so they made up this other character. And then there's Liz, who suddenly throws out the line, "You're cute, It's one of the reasons I had a crush on you in high school." And we're like, what? For years, the whole joke of Liz has been that John is in love with her and she can't stand him. And all of a sudden, you're throwing this bomb at us, right? Well, it must have done well, because less than a year later, here I am reading the strip. And out of nowhere, she just says, "Actually, I kind of do." And John reacts the same way. "You do?" And instantly, overnight, they became a couple, right? We're like, whoa, could you didn't set us up for that or anything, whiplash. Please, doctor, didn't have me inspected. But what I like about this now is that Liz takes the place of Lyman. We now have the family again, where there's 2 humans and 2 animals, and John has someone to bounce off of outside of just various little interactions, outside the household. So, yeah, even though this is probably the worst couple you could possibly come up with, and yes, I very much knew that, giggling as I chose them, I'm presenting them, and I love the joke, of course, that it's Liz and John and Garfield and himself.
Yep. And John is Jon, so I'm not sure.
Oh,
where that
you're
came
right.
from.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I didn't catch that. Somebody, it was somebody else in the
Twitless.
chat. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Why is it not letting me do this?
What's that?
I'm trying to remove my thing here. There
Oh,
it went.
okay.
It just is being stupid. Okay.
So yes, Liz and John and Garfield and himself and Lasagna.
So, all right. Well, I suppose I will have to go next as I already spoiled mine. And I am the least prepared because I have, although I grew up reading Blondie and Dagwood, I have not done the deep dive that I had hoped to do before talking about them on the show. And so there are lots of the questions that I have that I'm going to. I don't know how well I'm going to do on the game.
Twitless up here for a second. Can we get him on? Because he can talk about Blondie.
He said he might not have time though.
Twitless said, "I remember when John was cool and smoked a pipe."
That's
I
right.
do too. Yeah.
But
Come on,
Twitless
Twitless,
is
we know you're the Blondie guy.
in the chat. And Twitless, even if you can't come on the show, I would love to hear who you would have picked had you been able to show up. That might be fun. But yeah, so Blondie and Dagwood, of course, I don't want to spoil their past too much, but they have been a couple in comics by Chick Young and his son since like the 30s.
Yeah.
And so we'll go into that too. And they went from being a dating couple to a young married couple to a couple with babies to a couple with grown-up kids. And so that's mine, guys. So
That and the fact that the main character was completely swapped out, originally being Blondie and eventually being Dagwood,
yeah, kind of.
who wasn't
Oh,
even
yeah.
there in the beginning.
This is a more interesting character anyway. So
Yeah. Now,
I wouldn't say
Blondie was from like the screwball era where it's fun to watch crazy rich people.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like,
And
because she was like a rich lady. And then this was her goofy boyfriend who just showed up one time. Right.
Yeah. It's a little more involved than that, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Which we'll talk about in the thing because I know the questions. So, and the final one, of course, is Hutch, right?
Yeah.
And Hutch, you are selecting as I predicted.
Yeah. Ralph and Sue Dibney, the elongated man and his wife, and that's
Oh my gosh!
that is the cover of the last issue of Fanzine. I put off doing a issue devoted to my favorite character until the very last issue of the magazine that I ran, and so I think Reese is the only one who remembers this. But yeah, that was the cover. I asked Roz Terrell to do this for me. This is basically had I gotten it at DC and I was launching a series, this would have been the cover, or a professionally, whatever big artist they could get would do the cover for issue number 1. It would basically be something like this. It's playing up the fact that they are celebrities within the DCU, and that is something that most people don't understand, is that he is probably one of the most well-known superheroes because he stays around, he talks, he does interviews. These days, Sue would be an influencer, I'm sure. But she is an heiress. Yeah, she is an heiress, oddly enough, a lot like Blondie and Dagwood. She's the heiress. He's the goofball who just showed up, and they quickly fell in love and got married like in a blink. And so I know a lot of their history. I pretty much know all their history, and I have all the stuff that I made up from a 2-year proposed run that I never got to do.
Ooh, now does that count tonight?
Of course,
Well,
it might.
right.
We'll see if it comes up.
So you've got a wild card here.
I think the part of it that ends up counting is that clearly he's put enough thought into their relationship that he should be able to answer some questions.
Sure.
So before we go, Jim Tudor, I thought it was going to be Mystique and Sabretooth. I'm not sure if he's referring to Hutch's or if he's referring to.
I don't know if you could get
Mystique
further
and
away
Sabretooth
from
are
Hutch.
Right, I know. I'm sure he's teasing, regardless of who he was
Yeah.
trying to point out, Twitless or Hutch's thing.
Are
Either one, I
Mystique
think.
and Sabretooth a couple?
I've never heard that.
Well, Graydon Creed was their child.
Oh, I don't know
Wow.
what a Graydon Creed is. Okay.
Graydon Creed is a non-mutant, anti-mutant activist.
Okay.
And he's anti-mutant because he was rejected by both his parents because he was born a normal human from 2 mutant parents.
Oh, my
Okay.
But Mystique has rejected all of her children, so that wasn't really a big shocker. She's supposed to have like, I think 5 or 6. I don't even know.
I'm wearing the right shirt for today. This wasn't even the plan, but I just happened to have that on. And then I got down a couple of the action figures that I've got around my desk just to, because that was fan art, and I wanted to show the real character for a second.
Right.
But
And
they
he's
never
like-
make a Sue action figure. They still haven't. McFarlane's
Yes.
doing two different figures this year for Elongated Man. Neither one comes with the Sue.
That's
So,
ridiculous.
yeah,
I'm surprised
Jim-
they're even doing one.
well, yeah.
McFarlane's a big
It's
fan of
the
deep
purple and white costume and the red
Yeah.
and this costume.
They'd be happy that
Yeah.
people even remember that he exists.
Yeah, I am.
He said Jim also says his parents, Graydon Creed's parents, were both insane, which is true. Which is true.
Were?
Yeah.
I think
Were,
R
are.
is
I think
probably
are.
still the appropriate answer there.
Well,
Well,
nobody
that's
stays
fair.
dead in comics.
They're bad parents regardless. So anyway, and I also brought my giant gold blondie book as well as for my display. And also notable sidekicks. I almost went with Gomez and Morticia because I'm a huge fan of them as a couple as well, but we beat that drum a lot, so I decided to stretch my wings a little bit. I'm actually a big fan of most comic book couples. Wally and Linda, So I always thought that Kyle and Jade should have made it work. I don't see why they couldn't. I mean, come on, guys. Okay. Anyway.
I think all of my runner-up lists were also just the main characters from Rumiko Takahashi's other stories, because she tends to almost exclusively, unless it's a one-shot, write long-running stories about relationships between like a seemingly normal person and somebody with some type of like supernatural bend to them or something.
Right.
Okay, so we're starting the game show, right?
Is the last thing to know is that once again, I'm going to reiterate for all the folks that are watching there, it's encouraging you guys to stick around for the whole conversation because you will vote for who best laid out the case for their favorite couple, and the winner will walk away with a romantic dinner for 2 that they can pay for themselves. So. I didn't plan that. That tickled me. Okay, so first question. Question 1, how did they meet? Hutch, you take us off. How did Ralph and Sue meet?
They met at the debutante ball for Sue, who was having a long postponed debutante ball. She didn't want to do it. And finally, she's like 20, 21, past the age when they do this for women, because usually they do this like in the teens, late teens. And so she was in her early 20s and she finally relented, did a debutante ball, and Ralph supposedly faked a crime in order to crash the ball and said, well, I must have driven the thieves away. But there's that is not how I would have retold the story had I ever done the year 1 for them. But that is the official canon thing in DC per the Secret Origins. So he crashed the ball and she just fell for him. And in the words of Brad Meltzer, some people like vanilla, some people like chocolate. She likes, some people like pistachio nut, and she likes pistachio nut. So, she thinks he's wonderful. Most people would not have given him 2 looks, but
And
And
where
he is
where
enough.
was the ball? Was it a New York, Central City?
well, I would have put it in New York. Supposedly, when in the story where they killed her off, they said that they met in Central City, But I would have told Brad, no, that's not right, because she's got to be big city, not big Nebraska city, or wherever Central
Kansas.
City is now, Kansas, wherever it is. Yeah, she is East Coast. That is clearly part of her personality.
No, I am wrong. Central City is in Missouri.
Yeah.
Keystone City is in Kansas.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Ralph is from Waymore, Nebraska.
Yes.
So, which is a perfect name for a town in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Having driven through it a couple times.
Oh yeah.
There's just way more Nebraska. So
this is the truth. This is
Yeah.
the truth. So, interesting little fact: Waymore, Nebraska, is named after an actual town, Wymore, Nebraska.
Really, I did
Yes.
not know that.
Yep.
Okay.
And and that's actually south of Beatrice.
Okay.
The Wymore is where the Welsh Heritage Museum of the Plains is. So it's on my bucket list to go visit that place. I just haven't had a chance to yet, because getting across the state is a huge feat.
It makes me want it to be named Namor, Nebraska.
Well, that's weird, but okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
so Cartoonicus, where did John and does Liz meet?
Well, as many of you probably already know, Liz is Garfield's veterinarian. And it generally came down to one of those things where John signaled and would be desperate for any kind of date, so we'd automatically hit on her every single time he took Garfield in. The joke ended up becoming, of course, that he'd make up any excuse to bring Garfield in so he could see her. They established that Liz's name is short for Lizard. That was mainly because he asked her if it was short for Elizabeth, and she very sarcastically said, no, it's short for Lizard. And then again, that's pretty much it. The next 30 years of trying desperately to get a date and succeeding about 1% of the time.
Persistence sometimes pays off, guys. Remember.
But didn't she say that they knew each other back in high school?
Only in the movie.
Oh, only in the movie. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay. Excuse me. I missed that part. Okay. Good.
So
I thought I could trip him up and I can't. Okay.
Well, the medal already told us how
I did. I could go into it a little bit more if you want. I do have
you care
the
to,
page
absolutely.
which should happen. So let me go pull that page up. Here we go. I did not come prepared, but I do happen to have the entirety of Ranma 1/2 on my computer for literally any occasion. So when the series starts, Ranma and his dad are making their way back to the neighborhood of Norima, which is a fictional suburban neighborhood in Tokyo. And the only way that the Tendo family even know that they're coming is because they sent a postcard ahead of time. Now, again, none of them have any idea what happened to Ranma or his dad while they were out training. So while they're expecting a guest to show up any moment now, they go out to answer the door and suddenly come running back in because a panda bear, a literal bear, is now walking into their house carrying somebody over its shoulder. He's like, Dad, is this your friend? And he's like silently shaking his head. No. I have no idea who this is. And then he plops him down. He's like, I'm Ranma Sawatome. And at first, they don't notice that it is a girl in front of them because they're just so excited that Ranma's here. It's like, yes. Until the dad goes to like hug his new future son-in-law and realize that there's two soft things in between them. And is like, you're not a boy. So they're like, okay, well, they're still our guests. We need to be nice to them. Ranma then goes to take a hot bath and turns back, and he's like struggling to himself, like, how am I going to tell them? Should I even tell them? Should I just leave now before they see me again? And while he's taking the bath, the eldest sister, why am I blanking on her name right now? Anyway, the eldest sister it tells them, Akane, that she could go take the bath. It's ready for her. There was like a mix up on who got to take a bath in what order. So she strips down naked, opens the door as Ranma gets out of the tub. And now there's suddenly a naked man standing in the bathroom, staring at a naked woman who just entered the bathroom. She runs out screaming after calmly putting her clothes back on. She runs out screaming, picks up a large stone table to smack him with, only to drop it when he walks out and is like, sorry, I'm Ranma Sawatome. And then they spend the rest of the evening describing like what happened to them in China and how this boy and that girl are the same person.
Man, what can't you blame China for? Okay.
Also, I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to be that
Mhm.
guy. Pandas aren't bears.
Pandas
There's
are
actually a
bears.
huge
They
debate
are
about it.
absolutely genetically bears.
So,
They're closer to raccoons, actually.
well,
No. Now, the thing that has the name panda, that the panda bear got it from like a misnomer that we now call the red panda, but
Yeah, I
should
know
be
about
the
the
thing
red
just called the panda. That is more closely related to raccoons. But pandas and red pandas aren't closely related to each other at all, really.
anyway, enough biology talk. It's time for romance. So, Blondie and Dagwood. Now, Blondie was the star of the strip. It was called Blondie the Flapper, and it was a 1920s, a single girl in the city living off the kindness of strangers kind of thing, going to the jazz clubs and all that kind of business. And down at the jazz club, she catches the eye of Dagwood, who unlike Ralph and Sue, Dagwood came from money, lots and lots of money, and he was supposed to stay to. And one of the early tensions in the story is that he sees this flapper, and he is head over heels, absolutely in love with her, and he goes to tell her dad, I found the woman I'm going to marry, and she meets him and meets dad, and dad says, over my dead body. So what Dagwood ends up doing is he actually forsakes his inheritance to go marry Blondie, and he doesn't have any skills, and he doesn't have a job, and so Dagwood, being kind of a seems like a slacker or a failure, is because he was raised to just inherit his family's money. He didn't have anything to go with, so they really struggled. But love kept them together. Because Blondie saw what he gave up to be with her, and she holds that to her heart, and so that's the story of those guys. So it's kind of the inverse of Ralph and Sue.
I mean, I gotta say, I always figured that Dagwood was just brought on as a minor character and slowly got popular, and then they decided to put them together as a result. But it sounded like somebody had this entire thing planned out.
Yeah, not at the very, very first. It was like a gag a day kind of a thing to start with. But Young started just adding more complex stories and characters, and people really dug this burgeoning romance between them, and so it kind of went on from there. But it was it became a that's why it became Blondie. Transition from Blondie the Flapper into just Blondie as a consequence of their marriage and their the whole business. So and that is everybody for the first question. So now
I feel like I want to try to guess at what Twitless would have chosen. Anybody got ideas?
I suspect I see. Here's the thing: is I'm torn between whether Twitless would go with a couple that is like a standard, like Peter and Mary Jane or Lois and Clark, right? Or whether he would look for something really obscure, and but I'm not sure where he would fall down on that, because like
I'm
some of those
honestly wondering if he would choose a villainous couple.
could be the Sportsmaster and the Golden Age Huntress. There's a deep cut.
So,
Okay,
my
question
backup,
two.
if I Oh, sorry. My backup,
sorry,
if
go
I
ahead.
decided to not do it, if I wasn't going to do Elongated Man, my backup was Big Barda and Mr. Miracle.
Mm,
So, yeah.
yes.
But
Also,
I went
one
with my
other
favorite.
reason that Tom King deserves a kick to the nuts.
Gosh.
Yes.
Isaac Larkin says Ant-Man and the Wasp. Is that your pick? I think that's actually a pretty good pick. Although the Marvel did those guys dirty.
Yeah.
Do we want to get a quick analysis from the audience like that? Or
About
continue?
Ant-Man and the Wasp?
No, just in terms of what other people would have picked. Just for
Oh,
fun.
yeah. If they want to go ahead and chime in on the chat. But let's keep moving with the next topic. Question
Sure.
2. Oh, it's taking forever here. Hang on. Remove. Add to stage. There we go. Is your couple the one true pairing, or is it just a fling? In other words, not or not. Where do you see your couple in 5 years? And let's start with Cartoonicus.
I see John and Liz in 5 years exactly where they are because it has taken an act of Congress in the past to get Jim Davis to change the tiniest little detail about his comic. It took 40, 50 years to get them together in the first place.
Okay.
We can enjoy this for another 40, 50 years. Guarantee.
Let's narrow this down a little, right? Rather than what's likely to happen based upon Jim Davis's view of his own, money machine, right? I guess more what I'm asking is, based on the nature of the couple, are these guys? Do you feel they are destined to be a long-term happy couple, settle down with a few kids, place on the outskirts of town, or
No. The
are
result
they going
is
to burn
still
themselves
the same.
out?
They will be dating for the next 40 to 50 years. With at best Garfield and Odie as the kids, because these two are the most boring characters on the face of the planet, and their lives include. Again, she may have thought he was annoying in the past, but the fact that he finds joy in counting his socks in his sock drawer, that's not going to that's not going to affect her in a negative way. Ultimately, she has such a boring life of her own that these two might as well just sit in front of the TV, stroking Garfield and being abused by him, and nothing will ever change.
She's willing to settle. Okay,
Right? Exactly.
okay.
And he still will forever believe, that he is lucky to have her. No, he'll probably be on the edge of his seat, worried she might leave him at any second for the rest of his life as well.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Hutch, what are your take? Are Sue and Ralph destined for the legends of romance?
Well, ignoring the whole identity crisis thing, killing her off because they have brought her back and it never happened in the current DCU. But the current DCU, as far as I can tell, doesn't even touch them, doesn't even use them. And they redesigned Sue so that she's a brown-haired gal who looks nothing like Shirley MacLaine, who she was modeled on originally.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, she was modeled on Shirley MacLaine back when she looked like the Apartment type,
Right.
she was in The Apartment, the movie.
Mm-hmm. Opposite Jack Lemmon.
So she's, a lot of people they look like, really, their faces even look kind of like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore, kind of. I mean, they kind of have that coupleness thing, but they are quite clearly influenced by the Thin Man, the characters from the 30s who are just always kind of bickering, but that's just how they like to converse. Yep. They're bickering at each other and jabbing at each other, but they clearly love each other.
Yeah, it's all a game for Nick and Nora Charles.
It is.
Dashiell Hammett, for those who might not know. Yeah.
Dashiell Hammett, yeah. And and the first two Thin Man movies are just wonderful. If you've not seen them, go hunt them up. So I discovered the Thin Man because I was reading the Justice League, and what's his name? Jerry Conway actually said that they act like they've watched too many Thin Man movies. And I was like, what are Thin Man movies? And I sought those out, and I was like, okay, now I see it. Yeah, they are heavily. It's a lot like that. The early appearances of them, he was just kind of like they would arrive in a town. He'd find a mystery. She'd be like, I have no, you go do your thing. I am going to go shopping. And she'd come back with something you could still have fur hats and fur coats back then. She would come back having spent a bit of her fortune, and he's off, solving crimes. But she became a lot more of a My Girl Friday type thing where she helps him out. She is not a rival detective. She is not an equal detective, but they are like members of the best detective group in the DCU. That's where you see them now. If you see them anywhere, there's some gathering of detectives. I have not actually read the stories because I have not read anything, but I've seen it mentioned that they're just amongst this group of, John Jones and every other detective in the DCU is like together, and of course Detective Chimp. Yeah, they're all in one little society, and Sue's in there with them. So she's probably a much better detective than she was at the beginning of their marriage. But they have broken up a couple times, but it was always in his miniseries and in Justice League Europe, and it's because Sonar was trying to win her away from Ralph. He actually had a real crush on her, and Sonar conquered Europe and Asia in the second story. He conquered more territory than Napoleon had, and he lost it all because Sue had said that she would leave Ralph for him, and she was actually betraying him. So, yeah, he's lost his country because of her. He's lost half the world because of her. So
now he hates her.
Yeah. And now he hates her. And he was the logical person. It's like, why would anybody kill Sue? And it's like, it's Sonar, Yeah, they didn't read the stories when they wrote the thing. So, yeah, I always planned to have her, get pregnant in the story leading up to the ongoing series for Elongated Man that I was going to write. And then she would never get very far into the pregnancy. It would be one of those things. It would just be, she's eternally pregnant, in the same way that Robin was eternally 15, as long as Chuck Dixon was writing him. And then as soon as Chuck left, they aged him a year and a year or two. So suddenly he's an adult, no, it's like this. Sue would have never even started to show if I had my way. She'd just be, that's her established character now. And as far as in 5 years, oh man, I have an entire annual devoted to what was going to happen in 5 years, but I will have to tell you some other day.
So, it's fair enough.
Okay.
Twitless, the metal.
Yes, I'm here.
Tell me, are your crazy gender swap kids, are they destined for a life of eternal happiness, or are they heading to the?
I don't know if I would define it as happiness, because I don't know if that's the type of people that they are. But Takahashi only writes about the one true pairing. That's pretty much like what every single story is about to the very end. So the final chapter of Ranma 1/2, if I can get the screen sharing going. Basically, right after the big final battle of the series happened, when they get back to Japan, Ranma is immediately knocked out by his father and future father-in-law, and dressed up in a tux because he screamed "I love you" to Akane during the final fight, thinking that she was unconscious and couldn't hear that. And she's like, okay, we're going to have the wedding now. So they get all prettied up and they're ready for the wedding and everything. But the problem is they start arguing in the middle of getting ready for the wedding because Ranma's like, I didn't say that. You can't prove it. You were passed out. You didn't hear that at all. And in the middle of that, every single person starts like trying to crash their wedding. All of like Ranma's other suitors, all the other people who like Akane start crashing their wedding. They found out that the wedding gift was actually water from the spring of drowned boy because they were going to try to solve Ranma's problem once and for all, because if you go into one of the other springs, it overrides the curse that you currently have. And just all the hell breaks loose, and the wedding eventually gets postponed. But only for a little while. So Takahashi even writes like this little epilogue at the end that thankfully the fan translation has translated for us, about how they're going to finish off their high school life, still engaged, but they'll get married sometime afterwards, probably immediately after they graduate. They'll take over the Tendo family dojo, and given some of the more dreamlike future events, which all of them turned out to not actually happen, they seem to be like the Akane's the type of woman who will probably have anywhere between like 3 to 7 kids. So that's probably the life that they're going to have in the future. Ranma probably will never be cured of his ailment, but that's okay because Akane seems to like him just the way he is. And that's the future they're going to have.
All right.
Those kids won't be scarred for life at all.
Well, it depends on how they manage it, I suppose. Anyhow, yes. So now it's mine. Of course, Blondie and Dagwood settle down. They struggle. Blondie ends up going, and Dagwood ends up taking a lower management job, I should say, and basically just working his way up through a company. And they get pregnant. They have a kid. He keeps working at this job he hates for a boss that's less than it's a little bit sketch, but he keeps working at it and advancing his career, and eventually has another kid, and the kids grow up, and that's the story of Blondie and Dagwood. They are, of course, perfect for each other, and that's how that shakes out. So
that's not really fair. You knew the answers going in.
I knew some of the answers going in. So, next question. Who would survive longer on a deserted island? Metal, you go first.
Are you talking between the two and the couple, or
Yes,
between
between the two and the couple.
our four groups of characters?
No, between the two and the couple.
Okay.
Are you there, Metal? He may have left. I don't know. Maybe his mic quit working. I guess Hutch, go ahead and answer quick. It's Ralph or Sue? Who survives better on a desert island?
Oh, I'm sorry, but it would be Ralph. Sue is somebody who has had everything catered to her all her life. She's never, I don't think she's ever had any survival skills of any kind, really. So that's not usually a negative thing, but it comes in useful in a lot of other ways. If you need access to something rich and powerful, she's got it. But yeah, she doesn't know how to build a fire. And Ralph is probably a Boy Scout. He probably actually was a member of the Boy Scouts, and I always thought that he probably was in the FBI before he decided he really couldn't take all the nastiness of being in the FBI. By which I mean that the FBI handles the child bad pictures and all that sort of stuff, and just, it's all the scuzzy things. He likes locked rooms in mansions. He doesn't like the scuzzy kind of detective work, which the FBI has to do. And so he would, after all the training and everything, he would quickly burn out and have left the FBI. But that explains why he's such a good detective, where it came from. So he's had all that. He would even after his powers wore off, I think that because he wouldn't have enough Gingold to last for very long, and he needs it every 24 hours. But just based on, even without his powers, he is the person who could survive better on a deserted island.
Well, yeah. And as a fellow Nebraska boy, I can vouch for, starting fires out at the lake on Saturday night. That's
Yeah. Something I've actually wondered, this is way off topic, but how many of us even know how to tie a knot? I don't know anything aside from my laces for my shoes. It's a lost art. I've always wondered, when people hang themselves, it's like, who knows how to make a hangman's knot? How do you learn this?
Oh, there's lots of other knots that'll do that job.
Yeah, but I'm just saying we don't learn knots. It's kind of a lost art, and so
I mean, I'm an Eagle Scout here, but
you need to be basically be in the Boy Scouts to have been taught that. They don't teach it in school or anything. So yeah, so he's probably a Boy Scout, and he's probably had a lot of he's probably gone hunting, been out camping, all that with his family. So and Sue, if they went anywhere, it was to a hotel. So she's just not got the deserted island skills.
So I guess I'll go ahead and go next. And I'm afraid, Blondie and Dagwood would both be miserably ill-equipped to handle on a deserted island. But I would say it would have to probably be Dagwood, if for no other reason than his lifetime of sandwiches may have given him a little more to survive on.
I'm trying to picture a tower sandwich of there's crab and there's fish and there's coconut and then there's another layer of fish and then there's.
Well, now I suppose that's the question we need to ask here. Are we talking about the two of them stuck together and which one would go first, or if each one of them were individually on an island?
I would think individually on an island.
Okay, all right.
I would think that together. Either the Ranma couple or Ralph and Sue would be the best groups. But what do you think, there, Cartoonicus? Which one of John and Liz would be best prepared to make it out alive on a desert
Same
island?
as you. They're both going to be pathetic in the situation, I believe. However, history has shown time and time again, John has a desert island implies there's a beach. And John has had the absolute worst history when it comes to beaches. It's like you might as well be in Australia. Everything wants to kill him. So I think, in general, Liz might just survive by default. She would basically sit there and be boring and eventually be picked up by somebody. However, there's this side of me that wants to say, if John has Garfield with him, while he will still have the most miserable time there, Garfield, by sheer willpower, of needing food, will find a way to survive in the most ridiculous ways. He will be having pizza delivered there without using the phone to order it somehow, right?
Garfield is the luckiest creature in fiction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is a fact.
But I do think that Liz would have a basic biology knowledge that John would lack. So maybe she's got some science skills that he does not have. So just for that, I think she might last longer.
Yeah, Garfield finds a way.
Garfield finds a way. Yeah.
So Metal, are you back with us?
Yes, I am. I'm here. I had to go run off and get my food. It's dinner time. Spaghetti and salad. It's great. But I did see the question, and I did hear you guys answer, so I've got the context of what's going on. First off, because they are very, very comedically done, I think they would outsurvive even the couple with the superhero in them. I mean, they're practically superpowered themselves, but Ranma, his entire childhood was basically just surviving out in the wilderness with him and his dad. That was part of their martial arts training. He knows how to survive off of genuinely nothing out in the woods. If he deserted island, doesn't matter. He'd walk into the ocean and catch a fish with his bare hand, would be perfectly fine. Akane is probably capable of doing that too. She's almost as martially adept as her fiance is. The only problem I run into with them at all is that Ranma absolutely needs to keep Akane away from like cooking the food prep at all, because she's one of those like very disastrous tomboy characters that are common in manga. She might even been the person who started this modern trope where she cannot cook. The food that she will prepare will give you the worst stomach ache in your entire life, even if it's the most simple thing like preparing rice. So
Yeah,
Wow.
she did
So-
go
That is
through
a weird-
some
that is
like
a super weird trope. Like
yeah.
in the Forgers, in Spy
Yes,
Family,
Yor picks up that
Yor
exact same trope,
is-
and it probably
and
comes
it's
from
so-
Akane.
and it's so
Yor
weird
actually
because
learns, doesn't she?
a little bit. She gets a little better. But the thing about Yor is so funny is that's the only thing Yor can't do other than, feel comfortable in her own skin is cook.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's very much the same as Akane. Like Akane is like this superhumanly strong powerhouse of a woman. She's very fashionable too when she wants to be. Cannot cook. It's like her biggest weakness. She even goes through some bridal training to learn to cook. I think eventually she'll probably learn, but in the state they are at the end of the series, they would probably die if they had to eat Akane's cooking. But Ranma can cook, so they'll probably survive off of that.
There you go.
Well,
What's
is
really
that a-
interesting about this is that for once in anime history, you have a tsundere who is not going to give the protagonist a bag of cookies.
Oh no, she did. That she did that trope. Akane, she's not the first person to ever have like the tsundere tropes, but she is the quintessential tsundere. All of the modern tropes for that come directly from her. That's how popular Ranma 1/2 was.
So I have to ask, is that a common thing in Japanese comics and anime? Because I remember watching Project Eiko, and Seiko cannot cook. I mean, it's like, here, try this, and Eiko is like gagging on how horrible it is, and it's like, is this just I've seen that in so many stories where there's this girl who just can't cook, like her whatever she makes is just wretched. It seems
part of
a very
that-
common trope thing.
Comes from the fact that even to this day, home ec is still a required course in Japanese high schools, and the whole like Valentine's Day White Day tradition, where there's like a month apart where on Valentine's Day, all of the boys give chocolates that they made or maybe bought out to girls that they like. And then a month later, you find out if it was reciprocated because the girls go and they give treats and chocolates to the guy. So they have an additional white day. And at least on the girls' side, it is more traditional appropriate to prepare the treats yourself. Right. So there's like a lot of gags that come, they're learning in home ec, but they're just not passing the class or for whatever reason. And they end up like churning the stomach of the boy that they like. It's a pretty old trope that's been around forever. When it gets to Ranma 1/2, it gets attached to that tsundere character type. So then you stop seeing it as randomly with girls, and you start seeing it almost mostly maybe not even necessarily the tsundere, but the tomboy type, where it's like, well, you're not very much of a girly girl, so you didn't pick up on the cooking so much.
Okay. Thanks.
That's almost worth a show to talk about that. But let's move on to the next. Did everybody get on this one? Yes, they did. Okay. Next question. So this falls right in. We already discussed this medal. Who is the better cook? You actually led in with that one.
So yes, by far, Ranma. The funniest part too, I don't know if I have a screenshot or a comic page particularly prepared. I might be able to find one real quick. But there's even a mini arc where Ranma's mother comes and moves in with them. She doesn't know that Ranma and her husband are living there because there's like, to be able to bring young Ranma training when he was just a baby, he had to promise to his wife that he would make Ranma the manliest man possible. So the fact that Ranma can become a girl kind of breaks that promise. And the other side is that if he failed to, they would commit ritual seppuku. And she carries the sword around with her everywhere. So she moves in with the Tendos for a short period of time. Eventually, they hash it all out. Don't worry. She finds out about Ranma's problem and everything, and it's fine. But during that time, Akane wants bridal training. She wants to actually prove that she can do this. Her mother died when she was young, so it's nice to now have a mom, even if it's your mother-in-law. Like, she has a mom now. She wants her bridal training. And Ranma obviously wants to spend time with his mom too. So pretending to be like the Tendo's cousin, as in the English adaptation, they call her Ranko during that time. She also goes in for bridal training, and Ranma just destroys Akane at every single task that they try to do. Using like his martial dexterity and everything, flipping the knives around, chopping up all the vegetables, cooking everything fine. And with Akane stuff, you get pieces of the cutting board inside of the stew. She also, she's the trope where she puts salt in instead of sugar, or like the recipe calls for white wine. Is like, oh, well, white wine vinegar should do, right? Like that's the type of cook that Akane is. And it's because she gets too heated when she's in there. She almost treats cooking like a battle. And she ends up getting angry. And then the worse she does, the angrier she gets, which then means this feedback loop that she's going to prep meals worse and worse. It is something that they're hinting she will probably grow out of it, especially because she starts to become more tender in the kitchen as Mrs. Sawatome gives her bridal training. But again, at least where things stand, Ranma's a way better cook. I don't know if Akane will ever be a better cook than him, but she might at least become a competent one day.
Okay. Cartoonicus. What about John and Liz? Who's a better cook?
All right, I'm going to level you. I don't think we know anything about Liz's cooking. Right? I don't know if we've ever seen her do any. We know that John is a pretty good cook because he has to be able to cook for Garfield, right?
Yes.
That's a tall order. He's been doing that for years. Certainly, they order out, for pizza enough times, but he makes lasagna.
And lasagna is
right?
a medium difficulty dish.
Right. However, there are some things we know he can't do. If we get back to, I mentioned Garfield Thanksgiving earlier, and the whole idea of that is that John is completely inept when reading the directions. It says to rub skin with butter, so he rubs butter on his hands. He's supposed to cook it for 8 hours at 400. He's only got an hour, so he cranks the oven up to 800, thinking that'll fix it for him. Stuff like yeah. I'm gonna say he is a fine enough cook with certain exceptions. And since we can't know anything about Liz, I think he just has to win by default.
I would also. I think that's probably good. I think also, you take a look at Liz has been a career woman for a long time,
Right.
and a fairly involved veterinary work involves a lot of late hour work, after hours work. So I'll bet she's a big fan of the takeouts. So.
Yes.
Isaac Larkin brings a good point. Grandma does save the day of Thanksgiving with a chainsaw. 100%. Grandma is the best cook in all possible universes. Jim Tuner says he tends to think he cooks only frozen foods. I'm pretty sure I've seen him cook full-on meals for Garfield that didn't involve just heat.
Yeah, I don't think he gets the frozen lasagna. I don't think Garfield would accept that.
He might actually be, bachelors have one meal that they make, they learned one meal and they make it over and over again.
Yeah.
And maybe lasagna was John's thing, and that's why his cat grew to like lasagna. Is that
no?
I
get your point, but here's the thing: it's understood that Garfield was born in the kitchen of an
Right,
Italian
but he liked
restaurant.
lasagna first.
Hence,
I
that
get it.
is his connection to all Italian food.
Yeah, that's true. I even knew that, but I'm just saying that, you know, I mean, what if he liked lasagna and he had an owner who didn't make it? You know, the fact is, John probably makes lasagna. I don't see him buying lasagna at the rate that they have to feed it to the cat. I think he
Yeah, it'd
better
be
learn how to
cheaper
make
just to
it
get
from
all
scratch.
like the ingredients in bulk and then just keep making it as it's needed.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that you make it up once and you freeze all these, you know, you make one pan of lasagna if you're living alone, you know, that's going to be your thing. I have a feeling he makes lasagna from scratch because it's one of those things that can just provide for you, and you don't have to do a lot of cooking.
And remember,
'Cause
when
he's
he
a
makes
bachelor.
lasagna, he has to make 80 times the amount.
Well, right.
Mhm.
He knows
Yeah,
how
it's
to
kind of
cook
like
in
how
bulk.
like I'll make spaghetti for the week or stew for the week
Yeah.
or whatever. It's like I just want to make this will be the lunch meal. Other meals I'll worry about when I get there, but like I could just reheat the stew.
Yeah. And then he comes back and the lasagna's gone. And it's like that was, you know, he took out one cube and the pan is gone. You know, that is
So-
the problem. But ideally, he could have 12 cubes for all these meals, except that he came back and, you know, he found his cat likes lasagna. Too bad.
Now,
you know?
now here's the ticket. Now here's something we got to discuss. Isaac Larkin says it's a Stouffer's frozen family size pan. Yes, but what you fail, maybe you don't fail to understand this, but what you fail to mention is that the lasagna dish that we have, right, that we all know as lasagna, was an evolution, and a lasagna is named after the pan. Just like a casserole is named after the casserole dish, lasagna is named after the pan. So the lasagna is lasagna sized because the pan is lasagna sized. And as the dish evolved into its layered, cheesy deliciousness, it was named after the pan. So
This is also why I say that like Chicago deep dish pizza is actually lasagna because the first time it was ever made was in a lasagna pan.
Oh, you go. But
Anyway, if you'll put this up, I just discovered something. I totally forgot about this, but I remember it now. We do have a strip showing John, in fact, making lasagna completely from scratch here.
Oh.
So there you go.
he burns his hand, and that's fine.
because there were holes in his mitts.
Yep.
That's funny.
And who do you think was there?
Yeah.
In fact, I'm reminded there's another one similarly where Garfield is eating. So I swear it's based on the same idea here, only Garfield is eating it the whole time, and because of that, they end up with this one tiny little square of lasagna at the end. It's actually been cooked.
So, Jim Tuner says too much Garfield. I prefer Heathcliff and Sonia as a couple. I can co-sign that. I love Heathcliff. And then Donovan Reese responds, "A heart attack averted. I really thought you said Heathcliff and Sonic."
I'm sure there's probably some like fanfic somewhere of that
Well, of course.
that exists on the internet.
So Isaac asked if the lasagna was a chicken or egg thing. No, it is a pan dish thing. That's what it is. So it's got a very straightforward evolution. And Sad Robot replies, "Why do they call it an oven when you oven the cold food and the hot eat the food?"
I don't get it. How am I reading this wrong? Why did they call it oven when you in the cold food out hot eat the food? I'm sorry, I can't make
It's
sense
just
of this
nonsense.
Well, that's because you are above the age of 8 or
Oh.
not stoned.
Yeah, it's
Man!
that was
No.
some real Gen Z nonsense that we were.
No, I'm just like that's the type of like the brain that spits that out is like an 8-year-old's brain. It's funny, like I'm not saying it's not, but it's like either you're 8 or you're stoned, and that's where that humor. It's a meme. Twitless even puts up. It's like it's an old one that everybody recognizes.
It's a meme, Garfield. Oh, I wasn't aware that was a meme. Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm 23.
I need to ask you a question. As long as we've got this Garfield strip on the screen, I need to ask you a question. Have you ever? I mean, this goes back a long time in internet history. Do you remember the comic Arbuckle before it was shut down by Jim Davis?
No.
Arbuckle was somebody went through and they said, you know what? Whenever you see Garfield talking, it's a thought balloon. And so really the only thing that's happening here is John is talking and the cat. And so they went in and they take out the thought balloons and there's just whatever he is doing and what John is saying.
To his cat.
Yeah. And so and sometimes it looks like he is just insane. And John comes in and he's standing there and then the cat stands up and goes googly eyed, looks at him. And then John says, well, that's what I thought. And it's like, this makes no sense whatsoever.
I assume this is where Garfield minus Garfield came from.
It's that same kind of thing. And then there's Garfield -1. I've seen variations.
Yeah, people start
and then there's the square root of minus Garfield.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Arbuckle was the best. And it got shut down because it was a fairly decent strip on its own. It was just the previous day's Garfield with Garfield's thoughts removed.
Yeah.
And you know, any other talking, you know, thought balloon character would not have their thought balloons in the thing. And it's just John talking and then seeming to think in his head what the cat is talking to him. So yeah.
So now Hutch.
Yeah.
Ralph or Sue, who's the better cook?
This is hard. This is actually a very hard question because all I have are, you know, what we've been told. And as you know, they are not the most beloved characters that there's tons and tons of stuff. They are relegated to background characters a lot even in Justice League. And so when we first meet Ralph, he is in Flash Comics. And he then went to Detective Comics, where it started the real ongoing series of he and Sue travel around in a sports car, usually a convertible sports car, and they go to various hotels and they stay in hotels everywhere they go. And it's just assumed that they're doing this on her dime and that she probably makes, you know, if she's one of those people who has just enough money in in interest, she can spend the interest and not touch the principal, and they could live at a hotel every day and drive around as long as they aren't doing anything too extravagant. That's how they live. And he's supposedly famous and makes money out. I mean, the idea is that he makes money off of television, but you know, there's not a lot of money in television. But
well, wasn't he also did some corporate sponsorship and some ad work?
I don't remember them ever doing that. It was more just that he was willing to go on television and made so much money in television appearances. And maybe that means he was also performing and stuff. Like maybe he was on Penn and Teller's show doing something. You know, he might have been brought on guest spots or things. I always thought that before he was famous, he could, if he had Gingold, he could probably have made a fair amount of money just being a stuntman who doesn't get hurt. So there's endless ways to explain why he's not just living on his wife's fortune is all I'm saying. But it comes from money. She's always had a cook. If there's any reason why she would be cooking, it basically has to be explained because, you know, why would she have ever learned to cook? But at the same time,
it would have to be like a hobby or an interest for her to start.
Right. It's assumed that she's traveling around always, probably doing a lot of eating out. It's amazing that they're skinny, you know, given how much, you know, restaurant food is not good for you. But they've been, travel around.
It just depends on the quality of the restaurant. If you're that rich, you can eat good food.
Yeah, but good food is usually got a lot of butter and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm off topic here. So she probably doesn't have cooking skills unless she sought them out. You know, these days she would kind of be the kind of person who just, you know, watch somebody else cooking on YouTube and go, oh, I want to try that, you know, and maybe so, but they traveled around. Then he joined the Justice League. And then when the Justice League moved to Detroit was when Sue moved into the headquarters for the first time. And there's been a lot of her being a member, like a, affiliated member of the Justice League. She was even the head of the Justice League Europe at one point. So she's in the headquarters, and back at a time when they had Gypsy and Vibe and everybody, they were eating somehow. I kind of assume maybe she learned how to cook. Maybe she was cooking. Maybe Ralph was cooking. Maybe she and Ralph are cooking, because it seems like the kind of thing that they would probably do together. So I don't know why he would be a great cook. He was a bachelor. I remember the only hint we have of it is that in his first appearance, it shows him in his apartment, and he's got shirts hanging from a clothesline in his apartment. So he doesn't have much money at all. And so he might be kind of like John. He might have simple foods. He might know basics of getting around in the kitchen, but I don't know that he'd be a great cook for any reason either. Yeah. So I really don't know who is the better cook.
I'll help you on this one. Right?
I don't think either one is a good cook.
I think this will come down to sheer quantity. Because of his powers, he can cook by stretching into more than one kitchen at once and can just make more food, which makes him functionally the better cook.
Sure.
Now, here's the question. Is Ralph the kind who, like the Flash, is going to need 80 times the calories?
No. I in fact, I've always thought it was a kind of a problem eating anything that isn't like applesauce. If he's going to be, stretching through a doorknob anytime soon, going through the keyhole that big or whatever, you better not have a burger half digested in your belly.
Or make sure you're chewing really, really well.
Yeah. Yep. So
you just have to contort his esophagus into a blender.
Well, he can't do that.
He's
not Plastic Man. He can't.
Right. He's not Plastic Man.
You don't actually need to be a literal blender to do that. All you have to do is crunch it down enough in normal shape. I'm not saying how Plastic Man could literally turn it into a blender.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Actually, using the shape of himself to cause the food to break down quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could possibly work.
Yeah, but you're right. I could see him being a lot of fun in the kitchen using his powers. But as far as skills, as who's doing, he's not Oliver Queen. Oliver Queen makes great chili. He's known for that. And he's,
is it great? Is it really great?
Yeah. Supposedly, Scott McCullers did do that one-page pinup where everybody's like, it's way too hot. But that's just that it's too hot.
Well, that's
it's not that it's tasting bad. What's that?
I was saying that's personal taste anyway.
Yeah.
Does Ralph rocks
like a bird? He's got gizzard stones. But the problem would be that the rocks would be in the way. You'd have to spit them back out.
Yeah, that would be a problem too.
What the heck is this show? Okay. I think I'm the one who hasn't yet mentioned this. I haven't yet gone on this question. I believe the if I remember the story, and like I said, I haven't reviewed this, so I might be remembering wrong. But I believe when they first got together, some of the gag was that Dagwood had never had to do anything for himself, and Blondie was not a domestic goddess. So Dagwood was the better cook by default because he loved food, and so he would cook for himself because he enjoyed food, but it was all sandwiches and soups, just simple things. Because despite coming from money, he was a simple guy.
Is making a cold sandwich cooking?
Well, yeah, I'm going to go with it.
I would say if it is, he's got a sandwich named after him.
Yes, absolutely. Dagwood.
I think we're just talking about general meal prep.
That being said, I am going to just say Garfield will eat Dagwood under the table when it comes to a sandwich eating competition.
Yes, this is true. And earlier, one of in the chat suggested that maybe Garfield would just love Garfield. But
Ralph's the only person who could actually eat one of Dagwood's sandwiches. It is.
That's also true. But back to the Blondie. I believe that as Blondie story evolves, that Blondie catches up with all those skills that she's lacking from her that she did not pick up during her wastrel flapper
Yeah,
days.
she gets
Right.
domesticated.
She gets domesticated. She feeds the kids and all that kind of stuff. And so you have that I believe that Dagwood, is then I believe Blondie becomes the better cook after the kids get a little older. So
Doesn't she become a caterer?
I think
Isn't
so.
there something
That's
where, I mean, she's a
right.
caterer. Yeah.
I think you're right. I had forgotten about that, but I believe you're correct. So the student becomes the master, is my understanding of that whole story.
All right.
So Donovan asks, who could eat more lasagna, Garfield or Ralph? That's a really good question.
Oh, come on. You know it's Garfield.
So
Oddly enough,
Garfield with Gingold might be able to.
Ranma had a martial arts competitive eating arc in
Oh,
it,
no,
where he had to try
No.
to out eat a like French competitive eater whose entire like family line was about like eating food competitively, which he found a cheat to that. To where he wasn't the one necessarily eating all of it, but even the amount that he had to put down himself is ridiculous. So
Well, I mean, I have noticed anytime you have those actual eating competitions, it's always those little Asian guys who actually win.
oh yeah,
They have so much room to expand.
human garbage
elongated
disposals.
Garfield.
But see,
So,
Garfield actually
Twitless-
has a portal to another universe in his stomach.
Twitless has joined the chat.
Hey!
Hello, Twitless.
Hey, I thought I'd just hop by and answer the burning question of who I thought would be interesting.
Please.
Which this was actually a hard this was a hard assignment. Basically because of what Reese said. Because it's like, do you go for the classics like Lois and Clark, like the vanilla? Do you go for the doomed romances? Like Batman and Catwoman, or Spider-Man and Mary Jane. And
Harley Quinn and herself.
yeah.
Given
Well,
that none of us knew the rules.
No, but the one I had to go with my gut, which was just like, the one I thought was really like they should have stuck with. This one's going to be controversial. But and I'll share my screen for a second if y'all don't mind, because I do have a.
Yeah, 1 second. I do got to show off the Dagwood in honor of the last question.
Sure.
So there we go. Okay, now that's it. We're done with Dagwood. Okay. So where is your screen, Twitless?
Give me a second. Let me find the good capture that I want for it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do this one. So I went with, and I think this one might be, it might be a tad controversial actually, depending. Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate Kitty Pryde.
Okay, I hate this already.
I loved this one, but I can defend it.
Okay, I want to hear this.
Because the Ultimate storyline was meant to do things differently. And when it did its job the best is when it took some of the experiments, because it was very experimental. It was, hey, we have the whole Marvel toy box, and we already know years of connections between a lot of these characters, so we don't have to establish a lot of new lore out of the box. We can kind of just play games and we can remix things like a DJ. And so when they were doing some of that, it could be really interesting. And this was one of the remixes. And like I said, shock of all shocks. This is actually, I think, Bendis doing something really good. And I have huge problems with Bendis, but it's interesting because moments in this run, I think he just had a sweet spot at times, and it just clicks at times, and it doesn't have some of the problems that some of his later stuff has. That setting that aside, why this romance works for me, because this is an alternate universe, and because it's a long running one, so it's one you can get invested in. It's not just a limited series. This thing ran for over 100 issues. It was one of the longest running comics with like a single writer artist team, or at least a single artist team. Like I think it was like Bagley did like 100 issues. It was like a record. So it was a long running comic. You could get yourself a little bit invested in what was going on, but because it was alternate, there's this little freedom
Right.
that Spider-Man does not have to end up with Mary Jane. In the mainstream continuity for a lot of these characters, they really have settled on like who the canon mainstream version should end up with. Like you know, apologies to anyone who liked Lana Lang, but it really was Lois and Clark from 1938. Like Clark has a crush on
Right.
Lois since from the 1930s, first issue. And Spider-Man, after a while, really settles on Mary Jane in the mainstream comics, and so people really do kind of see them as the canon couple. So the Ultimate Universe presents an opportunity to do something a little different because it's an alternate universe. In fact, if it just ends up being the exact same, why would you make it? Why do it at all? So what's interesting about this pair up is the fact that in this issue, this is I think Ultimate Spider-Man Annual. Spider-Man has just broken up with Mary Jane, I think. I think partially due to the fact that he is afraid. Um, that's true. Yeah, Lang was yeah, but she became a big love rival for a while. Still is in some respects, I guess. Um, but okay, so Peter had just broken up with Mary Jane partially because like he was tired or he couldn't handle the stress of like her life potentially being in danger. So he has that classic superhero problem of I can't have a love life because my loved one would be like threatened. Meanwhile, Kitty Pryde is feeling very lonely in Ultimate X-Men because she just doesn't really feel like she fits in. She's quirky, she's nerdy. These other X-Men characters,
She's not a sexual degenerate.
that could, so she sticks out like a sore thumb. So
It's trash.
some of it is. I enjoy some of it. But some of the experiments work better than others. So the point here is the fact that the two of them end up kind of like finding each other essentially in this issue, and they bond over the fact that they both had their hearts broken a little bit. They're both kind of like hurt, but they find out that they're such a natural fit for each other. And as opposed to the relationship that like mainstream Mary Jane and Peter have, where she's kind of like very they're very different, and that brings out the couple. This is a couple where they're just very similar and complementary. And so Peter's like, I'm so worried about my girlfriends being like hurt, and so that really like, holds me back. And in this issue, they just have a very natural conversation. And Kitty's like, I want to go on patrol with you. I want to go superheroing with you. He's like, oh, you can't. You're gonna get hurt. And Kitty says, well, I mean, as luck would have it, I'm like my superpower is like being like
Yeah.
unhurtable. And so Peter's like, oh really? And so she ends up like complimenting him on their little like forays into crime fighting, and she can't be hurt. And so they bond over their love of like nerdy stuff, and they're a very acute couple, and also some of the problems that have plagued Peter in other runs. His bad luck with just like oh, I love lives, and they're always people getting hurt. Like she's like can't have that happen, and so there's this natural kind of like healing that she provides to him, and it's just very sweet, and it just fits. And so when Bendis like presents those things, it's like, oh yeah, I could totally see these two people like getting together. It doesn't feel forced. It feels very natural, and it just grinds my gears that
That he
they
tried
just
to do it again,
well,
but made it very forced and unnatural with Superboy.
it grinds my gears that Bendis like I don't know if it was editorial fiat or whatever, but eventually the Ultimate Comics had to snap back to, well, this is just how they did it in 616. So he just has to end up back with, and again, by what I just said, if you're gonna, the whole pitch of Ultimate was do something and do the DJ remix. So if you end up in the exact same notes, what are we doing here? So
What's ironic about that is that Ultimate Spider-Man currently is the only place where you can get Pete and Mary Jane together.
I know, like I said, it ends up, like I said, the whole thing ends up getting like twisted into a pretzel at the end. But in this moment, like I said, I love this couple. This is the one that pops out in my head, and I was just like, oh man, I want this couple to do the distance because it would be different and interesting, and they're just in this storyline. They're just such a good, like I said, they fit like a glove, and it just feels so natural. And I was like, what a great way of remixing things when you have the opportunity. And I'm like, my jaw still hits the floor that I'm like, I'm reading, it's Bendis. And I'm so used to hating everything he writes. But for some reason, I don't know, it doesn't.
So
it is interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say a couple comments from the chat real quick. Is that you said that it just does everything the 616 does. Jim Tuner asks, does the devil show up in Ultimates to rule in Peter's love life?
We were all thinking it. He's just saying it.
Yeah.
But
what I mean by
I had gotten a little Starky earlier. They said that they both love Pogs.
Pogs.
And Jim Tudor says, I can see them really bonding over Pogs.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's one of those couples where like I could totally see this working.
Once you explain it, I'll be honest. When you first mentioned it, I could not see it. I have not read this. I was really soured on Ultimate Spider-Man after probably the 8th or 9th issue. I was like, this is just like the same thing I've already read, but crappier and longer. And so I was pretty soured on it pretty quick. So I had not read this at all. But the way you explain it does sound kind of cool. So
yeah, it's interesting to me. I've always loved Kitty because she's the cute one, and to me, as a someone who didn't grow up with Spider-Man, I see Peter Parker as teenage Peter Parker. So this makes so much more sense than putting Kitty with 40-year-old Colossus. I've always hated that.
Well, Colossus isn't supposed to be 40. Colossus
I don't know. He looks a zillion. He looks like he could be her grandpa.
There is an age gap, and there's a few moments where like she's 14, and he's like,
I think she's, well, yeah.
She's 14 and he's in his 20s.
Well, she's 14, but they're not a couple when she's 14.
Yeah, but Chris writes some romantic overtures that some people may not be comfortable with.
What's funny here is in this image you've got is that I'm not used to seeing redheaded Kitty, and so it's almost like, are they channeling MJ out of her here?
No, she's it's the lighting. She's brunette.
Okay.
It's just an orange lighting. They end up, I think it's the ultimate shocker, and she's just like, can't hurt me, and she phases through his gun and shorts it out. And so she's not like, because when I think Spider-Man I think he dated Carol Danvers, and like setting aside what people may think about that relationship wise, as a superpower couple, it feels a little unbalanced. Because it's like you have characters with widely disparate power levels.
Well, and also they're like not a good fit.
But like with Kitty Pryde, it's like Kitty Pryde can participate in Spider-Man's world and not like ruin it. You know what I mean? Like she can short out bad guys.
Because like Carol could just solve most of Pete's problems for him.
Correct. Whereas like Kitty is like they're on a similar like playing field where it's like, even like, again, this should have gone the distance because you could have totally done so many things with them as a couple. It again pisses me off that anyway.
And also same concept. Isn't Carol like 80 years old?
No.
Carol is supposed to be at the point of the 616, she's supposed to be like in her late 30s or late 20s, early 30s. So
that's what I was like. Yeah,
Peter is supposed to be in his mid 20s. So
yeah, Jim's picking up what I'm dropping down. Yeah, it's like it makes sense, and as opposed to some of his other girlfriends, which are like bad girls who are like, ooh, I don't know, like she's very wholesome. And
right,
and like
also the aspirational, like I want to be good enough for this girl. Whereas with Kitty, especially this version of Kitty, they're more like peers. So they're like, that's one thing. Like the high school girlfriend, right? Mm-hmm. is heavy on the friend, right?
Yeah.
Where they're like where your high school pals that happens to be a girl and you hang out with and you maybe hold hands and that kind of thing. It doesn't have to mean forever. To date a girl in high school.
You know what's also neat about this is that as opposed to other romances where it's very one-sided, Kitty like really likes Peter.
Mhm.
And she really likes Spider-Man. When she's first introduced, it's like she has a poster of Spider-Man on her wall, and when you see inside her thought balloon, she's worried because she really likes him, and she's worried about pleasing him. And it's like a lot of certain modern romances, especially in comics, make it very much like the guy's simping. You know what I mean? Not to I know Barda and Mr. Miracle are a good couple, but there's been some recent runs I think that have
Yes.
leaned Mr. Miracle a little into that territory, unfortunately. But
They also
here you
work
could,
thematically, right? Because like Pete and the X-Men in general just kind of work together so much that they've done so many crossovers with them over the
Right.
years
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it makes sense that if you were to date somebody with actual superpowers, it'd probably be someone from the X-Men.
Yeah, no, I completely concur. So like I said, this one has just kind of stuck with me. So when you said this, I was like, I was either gonna do this one or Batman and Catwoman, but I was like, that one's too obvious. So I decided to go with the more obscure pick.
Okay, so Twitless, are you going to be able to stick with us through the duration, or do you need to sign off really quick?
I need to bounce off in a
Darn.
couple minutes.
Okay.
My mic was off for some reason. I was going to say, in this girl, when you inevitably throw her off a building, she'll just face to the ground.
Exactly. That's again another thing I love. Is just she can't you can't fridge her.
Yeah.
And so she's immune to the Parker luck.
And
So,
it is hard to find somebody who has a power set that works on all the scales that Spider-Man works on, right? And because hers is not like it is a physical power, but it's not like one related to strength or damage or anything. She could
Right.
still kind of function anywhere from that street to cosmic level.
Right. Yeah. No, she's got good range. Yeah. I agree.
Okay, so Jim Tuner's talking about you were talking about Mr. Miracle, and Jim Tuner says saying Tom King without saying Tom King. Every Tom King couple is Tom King in a weird mother character. Yes, this is very true. And also, he says he prefers from Batman and Catwoman to Batman and Talia al Ghul.
I disagree. I've said this before. I will pitch the best Catwoman and Batman romance ever, where the two of them play cat and mouse games while being romantically attached. I've got like some just like tear jerker, like heart jerking stuff. Like it's so good. I can't believe no one has written it before.
Do we get to go back to the time when Huntress actually made sense?
I
Meaning the 70s when she was on Earth 2?
Right.
Okay.
yeah, I still like Helena. Anyway, Bertinelli, I like that story. So we've got some we got some fire in the chat about Talia. That's it. So, okay. The next question in our little I have to hang on. I got to remove screen. I unshared the thingy, and I've got to get it back again. Sorry, everybody.
How many more questions are there?
I had done 10, but we're going to skip some because we need to move along.
Okay.
Talia's misunderstood, Jim says. Can be. So, how did the parents react to this romance? So,
I think I've already answered this one extensively through my other questions. So
you definitely have Metal. Hutch. How did the what did there is it was Sue Dearden? Am I remembering that right?
Dearban. Yeah,
Dearban.
Sue Dearban. Now, on the Flash TV show, they said Dearbon, which is just terrible. It's Dearban. It's very obviously Dearban, not Dearbon. Nobody's named Dearbon. Anyway, they also say I've also heard a lot of people say Gingold. It's like it's not Gingold, it's Gingold, because the Jingo, you wouldn't call it a Jingo fruit because Jingo is like jingoism. It would be a Gingo fruit. So anyway, this is a very unexplored element of their lives. Like I said, as being background characters who, if they do have a story, they just have the main story, and there's a little time for dithering on little stuff like their background. So, aside from
this may be time for you to invent, to shine.
And this would be
He's
this would be where I had a whole. I mean, he's the only person who did not have a year one of of all the DC major minor Justice League members. He did not get a year one back when everybody had year one. So I had a year one pitch, and the whole thing was that her parents, I would explain where her money comes from, what her relationship is like, what his parents are like. You only get a glimpse of his dad in the Secret Origins. I have no idea what Ralph's mom even looks like. And so I don't really know anything about his parents. And I think they're just a Midwestern couple, kind of boring. But her parents, I imagine that her mother would be sort of like Margaret Dumont, the woman from all the Groucho Marx and Three Stooges comedies. The high class society lady who then comes in, and the Three Stooges have been hanging wallpaper, and it's a disaster. So yeah, the
Belvedere.
Yeah, it's like the one who's always going to marry Groucho Marx because he wants her money. It's just
right.
Yeah. So the only thing we know about her parents, oddly enough, is that they're Republicans. That's the only thing we're told again and again by the in the Elongated Man miniseries. This one character mentions a number of times the substantial amount of money that her parents have given to the GOP. I don't know why that's mentioned, but that's the only thing we know. And then in the one story where she was kidnapped, there's like Mark Waid, the one time he really got to write Elongated Man was in Justice League Quarterly, the story where Sue gets kidnapped and Ralph is chasing after her. And supposedly there's a lot of land deals. Like her family made a lot of money on land deals, and that's all we know. I wanted to have the whole driving part of the story of my untold story, because really even his wedding has never been shown. It's just mentioned. We don't see any of that stuff. So his unmasking is unknown. And I was going to show all of that in the year one story I was going to tell. And it was going to be about how I wanted to have her parents be part of the pharmaceutical industry. Like that's where their money is that they have a lot of pharmaceutical stuff. I was going to have just talking about like all the money that is spent developing things, and then right around the time you have it ready to roll out, the FDA then tests for another 10 years, and then you have like 5 years to actually make your money from it before it goes public. So there was going to be that was going to be a driving plot, is that they have a drug that they're trying to not roll out, and it's like an important one, but they have to figure out a way to hide it. So that was going to be what the crooks are trying to steal from him, in the story that I was going to, because you got to have a story that goes through 4 to 6 issues, whatever they would give me. Turns out they wouldn't give me anything. But that was the thing. I think that her parents really wanted her to marry better, and but they didn't. I even had a story like right in the middle of that year one. The parents want her to go and consider somebody else, and she is the arm candy for Bruce Wayne at a get together. Just hey, maybe try Bruce Wayne, maybe go for him, and she is not interested. And this has nothing to do with him being Batman. It's just he always has some new arm candy that he's never seen before, and you never see her again. And Sue turns out to be one for one time. So do I consider the parent stuff for Ralph and Sue in the Arrowverse as his canon? Nah, there was a thing. I like his mom was a single mom and the dad was dead or something. And I don't know. I don't remember too much about his parents. The Dearbons in there, I'll call them Dearbons because that's what they were in the TV show. Named wrong, but that's okay. Yeah, I don't really. I thought the casting of Ralph was perfect. I thought the casting of Sue was pretty good, but the portrayal, she's just another girl boss. She can't be, a lady who goes shopping, so she's got to be like a martial artist, cat burglar character. And it's like,
Yeah, nobody can be in above their head.
yeah. So I don't know. I didn't really care for all that. I generally didn't like what they did with Ralph because the actor did a good job, but then he got kind of a bum's rush because of Black Lives Matter. So anyway, it was kind of sad. All of a sudden, one issue or one episode he's there, and the next episode he's got a helmet on, and somebody else is doing a voiceover for him because the actor's gone. So it was really weird, but. Yeah, I don't consider the TV show canon. There wasn't much about his parents in there anyway. So, anyway, that's what I was going to do with her character. But there isn't much in the actual canon, in DC canon, is about her parents. They kind of show them at her funeral in Identity Crisis, or is it his parents? I think it's his parents supposed to be there, and his dad kind of looks like Dick Van Dyke, I think. I don't know if it's supposed to be her parents or his parents. There's not a lot said about her family, except that her uncle volunteers to be one of the people carrying the casket. And then we don't even get to see him. So there's really not a lot shown of her family.
I would imagine that Ralph's parents would really like Sue, but not understand her at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and I imagine that Sue's parents would like that Sue is happy, but always think that she just could have done better.
Right.
And I don't think it would matter how famous or wealthy or successful Ralph would be. The fact that he's just some hayseed who, got famous for stretching is never going to be good enough.
He has like $2 million. And she has $20 million or $100 million. It's like he has just enough that they aren't going, he's after your money, he's worth nothing. He's made a little money, and he's like, we could maybe get by on this. And then she says, well, I've got, $20 million or whatever. What part of it that I was going to explain at the end of the miniseries is that the parents buy them a mansion right across from their mansion.
Yeah.
And
oh
like,
my gosh,
we
everybody loves Raymond.
Yeah, it would just be, we bought you a mansion, and that's why they're traveling. They're like, I don't ever want to, he says, I want to marry you, and I never want to settle down. So believe me, in the ongoing series, I was even going to have that Ralph's best friend from high school lives in his mansion. And that's where people send letters when they want to get Ralph's attention. He's got a mailing address, but Ralph is never there. And and his friend lives in the mansion because they never sold it, but they're just like, they don't want to live there. They don't want to be living across from her parents. So so that's why they always traveled the world. And then every now and then, the best friend calls and says, hey, there's somebody who wants your help with something. And that was going to be the ongoing series, but dang, who do I talk to? I mean, at this point, DC is such a nonprofit venture that maybe they'll let me do it now. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Jim's right on the money. Sue's parents would have been uncertain of Ralph because Ralph is from Nebraska.
Exactly.
Yeah. In fact, I have a whole story about that for some other time.
You can be rich from Nebraska. You're still from Nebraska.
Yeah, unless you're Warren Buffett, you're just from Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, never mind. I don't want to get into that right now. So, Cartoonicus, what do you think that their folks had to say?
All right.
I know that Liz's folks, I believe, have never been in the comics, so just you'll have to
We're just going to stick with the Arbuckles here. All right, number one, Mom is head over heels to meet the little lady. Oh my gosh, this is so wonderful! Come on in, honey. I'm so happy I could just burst. Dad is slapping John on the back, saying, I can't believe it. We never thought it would happen to you, son. Doc Boy is simply teasing him the whole time, John and Liz sitting in a tree. And of course, Grandma is going to put Liz through the ringer to test her in every possible way to make sure she's worthy.
Yep.
It will be boot camp to the finest degree.
Yep. Is Liz up to the challenge? Will she meet Grandma's very strict standards?
You're making me want a special about that. You know how every once in a while they'll do a holiday special or something and do one of those extra long books? I want that now.
Yeah, I actually really want to read that as well. That'd be great. So I don't even have to go. I've mentioned this a little bit for Dagwood and Blondie. Dagwood's parents disown him for marrying Blondie.
That's right.
I believe they do later reconcile after the children are born, but they're never close. Blondie's parents, I believe, do show up and adore Dagwood. But they don't meet him when they're first together either. So,
that's interesting that as much as things have changed in the comic over time, that they've actually managed to keep the continuity.
Yeah. So that is the story. Dagwood was threatened. He was disowned over marrying Blondie. He lost his inheritance and everything. So, and then when they did come around, he didn't want their money anymore and told them so. Right. Okay. And Twitless has had to leave. So we'll never find out what he thinks that Kitty Pryde's parents would have thought.
That is interesting because we got on Peter's side, we got no parents. We just got Aunt May.
Yeah,
I'm sure Aunt May would be ecstatic that Peter's just in a stable relationship at all.
I think she's really glad that he's not gay.
Yeah.
So anyway, probably.
Yeah. But just the shorthand, since I already covered mine, but it's because of their parents that they're even in the first place. So.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
Was there a question? Did you skip question 6?
I did skip question 6.
Can I know what it was, though?
Oh, sure. I was going to say, who's more likely to cry during a sad movie?
Oh, okay.
Oh, definitely, John. Absolutely.
Oh, and you skipped the one about what was the first movie they watched, too. Yeah.
Yeah, I did skip that one as well.
But Thin Man, I'm sure. And they'd probably cry during Thin Man. So.
I figure with Rama, it might depend on which state he's in at the time.
No. Akane would always be the one more likely to cry during a movie. That's just how she is.
I think Ralph would be the crier more than Sue.
Yeah?
So,
yeah.
Right. I think she's a little more hard-bitten than him, and he'd be willing to cry at something. So, yeah.
And I'm going to answer for Twitless and say it's going to be Kitty, unless, of course, that movie somehow reminds him of Gwen Stacy.
I would say the Cartoonicus, your
so the opening of Cliffhanger makes him cry.
Like, gut instinct isn't wrong though. Ranma does cry more often than Akane does for like any reason. But for the case of like a movie, it would be her.
Okay, sorry, I went back to the question you didn't ask. I'm sorry, I derailed.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so what superpower would each partner not want to have?
Like themselves to not have, or for their partner not to have?
I think for themselves to not have. Yeah.
Oh,
that's interesting to not have.
While they're thinking about it, I can say that Ralph would not want to have the melting power because when he melts, that's when he's evil. So he did have he had an alternate superpower. As he was drinking his Gingold, Barry picked him up at super speed, and the agitation ruined the Gingold and turned Ralph evil, and he became the Molder who could melt other things, and he actually successfully killed Barry Allen. So, except that his wife found a way to bring him back to life using a what was it, like a cyclotron or something? I don't know. It's just
wow.
Yeah, she took the melted superhero and exposed him to a cyclotron, and he came back to life. It was all in 2 issues, so he died and he's back, and they didn't do a major event out of it. out of him
Okay.
dying.
Wow, that'd be something. So what about that's
Sue,
crazy. So,
as far as
that's
Sue,
crazy. So,
as far as Sue, I actually toyed. I mean, she's never had superpowers, and she can't do Ralph's powers. She can't like drink Gingold because she is highly allergic to it. Most people are. She has a very strong aversion to it. It was going to be one of the funniest scenes in my little year one, is that when he locks his eyes with her and says, I've decided I want to share this with you. And he holds out the vial. And the next page, and they're at a restaurant when they're talking about this, he finally reveals his backstory, how he invented this Gingold thing, and he's decided to share it with her, and together they can be a stretchy couple. And the very next page is just a very cartoonish blarg that has like drippy letters and everything. And it's just she's in the bathroom and he's like holding her hair, standing outside, saying, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry."
She's like throwing up.
Yeah, because because she took it and she is allergic, terribly allergic.
Oh,
So yeah, but he didn't know that.
so here's
yeah.
here's a question: would Sue even want superpowers?
Well, that was the other thing I was toying with when I did the ongoing series where she's pregnant. Ralph says, "I need to protect this lady." And he's talking with various people, can I maybe give her a force field that's always on, or can I make her invisible? And they say, if you give her invisibility in a force field, we're going to have legal problems, because she's already named Sue, married to a stretchy guy. So but aside from joking,
I haven't put that together yet.
So no invisibility, no force field. We'll have to come up with something else for her to protect her. But they don't really have it.
Okay.
Yeah. So he married her, and her name was Sue, and they got married before he appeared before Reed Richards. She appeared, I believe, before Reed Richards. And so they were married before Reed Richards even first appeared with his own Sue. So they're not the copycat.
No, but if you do bring that into, then you're getting like reverse directional copycatting.
Yeah.
It's
I don't think either one's a copycat. I'm just saying, it's not that like
No.
Ralph is a Johnny come lately or anything. He actually had it first, but they aren't in competition or anything.
No,
Okay.
it's the old
Yeah.
classic issue. It's like somebody brought up Heathcliff earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing: is does Gingold taste like mellow yellow or lemonade? Somebody asks. Jim Tuner says it tastes like mango gin, which sounds great to me. Gingold tastes like Baja Blast or White Monster.
Just once in like the Superman movie that they did last summer, I wish there was just a Gingold vending machine, just
It would've been
right
great.
next to
would've
the
been nice.
soda cooler,
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I recently watched the Human Target TV series. I was able to watch all of it,
Oh,
and it was enjoyable for the most part. It was the one from like 2014 or whatever. It was
okay.
enjoyable for the most part, but the fact that there was zero like DC Universe references. I know they didn't want to get into the superhero stuff, but no soda colas, no like Wayne Tech on anything, no discussion of any of that stuff. It was felt so divorced from everything. It was a bummer.
I sat through 10 seasons of Smallville, which is totally DC stuff, and never once did they mention Batman. I feel like there's this aversion to using Batman outside of Batman context with DC.
Or even the like having the like O'Shaughnessy's grocery stores or anything. It just was so divorced. So does or Big Belly Burgers, right?
Yeah. It could be a legal thing where they can't mention Batman.
Well,
I mean, there's been a lot of.
It's also the fact that DC always has like all these different embargoes going on. If you're using somebody in one show, you can't be using them in another.
Right. That's why Blue Beetle couldn't be in the just JLU when
Yeah.
when Booster Gold was, and they're like, why
Weird.
isn't Blue Beetle in there? It's like a perfect time to feature him. He was optioned for something, and they couldn't have him. They couldn't have him. They couldn't have Firestorm in there. It was just like, why those weird characters? But
That's weird.
somebody had
Well,
optioned them. Yeah.
So anyway, so let's move
Go ahead.
on.
Yeah.
Would Ranma? What power wouldn't Ranma want to have? Metal.
Here's the problem, is that I don't know if they would think about the world in this way, because they're already super powerful people as it is. Like Ranma is probably on par with a lot of what you might call like the upper street level people in like Marvel or DC. And he shows us off all the time.
Power
Like, he'll
fist.
just like walk up the side of a telephone pole just because like he doesn't function like the normal people around him, just used to being this training martial artist, whatever. He even does like ki blasts later on too. Like he just unlocks those type of energy blast things with like the lion's roar. So there, he thinks more of the world in like curses because he's got one, and half the people he knows has a curse, and he's even worried at some point about Akane getting cursed. So I don't think there is a superpower neither of them would want. They would probably think more in, there's a superpower I wouldn't want the other one to have because I'd have to deal with it. Which there is even an arc on that where Akane ate some like noodles that gave her even more super strength than like anybody normally has, because they all are like Captain America strong, right? She just picks up stone tables casually and stuff like that all the time. But this one gives her like Spider-Man level strength for a while. Like Ranma can't even deal with his fiance right now. At the cost that if she doesn't take the antidote for it, she's going to start growing whiskers, which is a horrible side effect. So I think that's more of how they would look at it. It's like Ram would be like, I don't want her getting super strength again or anything like that. It's like, I don't want her having powers. And she probably would also think like, Ranma's strong, but I only want him to be strong enough because he's a handful as it is.
What about the fear from Ranma of having his curse be permanent?
You know what? It's probably going to end up being anyway. But you mean like
No,
not
no,
being
I
able to
mean-
turn back into a guy
I
ever?
mean, just the girl side.
So there have been times where it kind of was like that,
my.
sort of, where Shampoo's grandmother put a kind of like pressure point thing on him that made his entire body as sensitive as a cat's tongue. So he couldn't handle hot water at all. So he was just like stuck as a girl for weeks until he was able to beat her and get the cure to that little ailment that she put on him. So yeah, that's definitely a fear that he would have, that would happen again, but he's been through it already.
All right.
Okay. So not applicable question. Okay. Yeah. What about John and Liz there, Cartoonicus?
Well,
Would either of them?
I'm thinking John definitely would not want the ability to talk to animals, because then he would find out the immense load of sarcasm and disrespect that comes from Garfield, which enough of it already comes out as it is. But if you could actually hear every single thought bubble, which is about 70% of the comedy of each comic anyway, like that would just be unbearable. As for Liz, I don't know if she would ever even think about a superhero, power. Let me just think for a second here. You know what? I think it's the same answer, because she has to deal with animals on a daily basis. Yeah, that could get real awkward real quickly.
I like Sad Robot's comment here. No, he wants to talk to Garfield. He would regret it, but he doesn't know that yet. So he shouldn't want. So yeah, I think John would enjoy, being super strong. I think if he was super fast, I think on those things he would really be in for. But I would think if I would make it the guess, I would say John wouldn't want to be telepathic because he'd be terrified of what other people might be thinking about him. that we might take, but
That's a good answer. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say he wouldn't want teleporting, because with his luck, he would end up teleporting out of his clothes in his
that's a good one.
shorts, outside with the neighbors watching in bunny slippers.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one. Deal with that Arbuckle luck. I like it.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess we're to me. I think that Dagwood would not want super speed because he's tired enough as it is.
Oh, but wait a minute. He's always late for work.
He is always late for work, but I think he'd rather be able to relax than he would rather be on time for work.
Yeah, I think instead he would probably prefer time stopping. That way he could still be on time for work, but he could also just sit there and take all the time he wants.
Yep. Because the thing about it is sometimes he's lampooned as being lazy, but he's really not. He's put in his 8 hours. Right. He just wants to sit back with his giant sandwich in the paper or the TV or with his dog, and he just wants to kick back a little.
He also loves his naps. And the ability to just stop time, even at work, and just take the longest nap and then start and nothing has changed. His boss has no idea.
Yeah. I think that Blondie, I don't know what Blondie wouldn't want to do. Especially, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that one. So. And I did this one twice? Yes, I did. Goodness sakes.
Oh.
That's why you have 11.
Okay. So we have to answer it again. Okay, so
oh
John would not.
Well, and there was another. Okay, hang on. This version of the thing doesn't have all the stuff in it. Let me look at I have a master list of the questions someplace. Where did I put it?
While he does that, actually, funny thing that we brought up, him being stuck as a girl, the panel in the background of my webcam right now is actually Akane and Ranma on a date to try to make him feel better during that time that he was just stuck as a girl. Coincidentally enough.
How awkward. Okay.
It's a really funny series. We'll have to, whether it's this one or not, we'll have to do it like a Rimiko Takahashi thing sometime. I remember I got you on board for like maybe 1 pound gospel, especially because that one's kind of short.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about that when we hadn't come back around to it, but yeah, that'd be good. Okay, so kids. Are kids on the table for the couple?
Oh my.
We kind of already have all talked about this already.
Yeah.
So we know that we expect Ranma and I.
Oh yeah, kids are expected. I don't think they have an option.
Yeah, it's culturally. Of course, I can't imagine a world in which Ralph and Sue don't eventually have kids.
Right.
That's one of the things that's been a tragic, something of a travesty in that thing is that like if there's ever a couple that are meant to be parents, it's Ralph and Sue, and of course, Dagwood and Blondie, they had a pair of kids. Yeah. So that's the thing. And what about
as we said, it took 30 years to get them together in the first place. I'm not expecting anything to move forward.
Yeah, they were also older. I mean, that's the implication too, is that John and Liz are older by the time they actually settle down.
Yeah.
So maybe Liz is just out of eggs. It happens. So, and the final question we had was, what is the couple's idea of a perfect date night? Well, I will start with this one. because there are two ideas. One is that Dagwood, I think, would think, even after all of these years, would think that Blondie's idea of a perfect date night is going down to a fancy restaurant and not having to stick around the house. However, even growing up around money, Dagwood is always awkward in those situations, and they always turn into something terrible. And where, he accidentally trips the waiter, the soup gets spilled. I mean, it's always something when Dagwood and Blondie go out. So I think Blondie would never be able to they'd never want to say it and squash the dreams that Dagwood has. But I think she just as soon hang out at home with Dagwood, and that's a perfectly fine night. No, no, I've got this figured out. He's like, you really don't have to, honey. No, it's really, I've got this figured out. So that's how I think, even after all of these years, that is how that would shake out in a story.
Darn, that's really annoying. That's practically the same thing I was about to say. Just, planning out the craziest, biggest, fanciest French restaurant and everything, and then the result is they're both sitting on the same couch with Garfield and Odie and a takeout pizza, watching the Egg McMuffin that ate Manhattan for the 12th time. Yeah.
So, Hutch, what would Ralph and Sue's ideal date be like?
I just figured it out.
Okay.
Yeah. The ideal date would be dinner and dancing at a very high-class restaurant, one that, you can't get reservations for a year, but they say who they are and they're allowed in, and they go, and then somebody is killed in a locked room and Ralph has to solve it.
Yes.
That would be the ideal date. If there's not a mystery, then it wouldn't be, and it can't be just something that Sue has set up. It would have to be a naturally occurring mystery. That would be the
Well, I
ideal.
would hope that Sue didn't set up a murder mystery.
Well, to explain that, one of the things is that like every year for his birthday, Sue does a mystery for him, and it's
Right.
so it's not necessarily an actual crime, but there'll be something that seems like a crime, and then Ralph will follow all the clues and end up at a surprise party, right?
Yeah.
And so like she tries to put one over on him every year, and every year he ends up solving it, and she knows he will, and that's why there's the thing at the end of it all.
Right.
So
to the point that she has never done that on his birthday anymore. It's always in the wrong month or something, just
Right.
to throw him off.
That's right.
Because he'll be expecting it otherwise.
It'll be a
expecting
real
that.
surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You know, we
yeah,
actually
she's never set up a murder.
well, no, not for a murder.
Yeah.
It's always like a missing jewels, and they're
Yeah.
not really missing, or there's the
That's
breaking into
because
the
she's a
museum.
good person.
Yeah.
What?
I said that's because she's a good person. That's why.
Yeah.
It'd be funny to have like John Jones as a dead body.
That would be pretty funny. And you know what? He would probably play along with it too.
Actually, he would.
He's a good friend.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
So what about a comment in the chat? Talia be like. Actually planning a murder to impress me.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So Metal, what about you? What about
Yeah, so sorry, they're not fancy people, like by any regard. In fact, actually they're pretty poor people. Scraping by all the time. Though Ranma does often get a few part-time jobs just because he wants to help out with the dojo while he's in high school. But because of that, like they actually go on dates all the time, even though they won't admit that they go on dates. Like just the two of them together doing things are dates. But if you ask them, they're like, no, we're not going on a date. So I think they would probably still be the same thing. Maybe they would just be at a cafe together. Maybe they'd be at a fair or festival together, the summer festival or something for like Tankobon or something. But the stipulations would be for Akane, that Ranma needs to stay a boy the entire time. Because while that one was a very specific circumstance where he was stuck a girl, Ranma is the type of skeevy guy where he will often either turn into a girl because he knows that he could get a discount for being a pretty little girl, or because he's like embarrassed that a guy can't eat desserts that a girl would be allowed to eat or something like that. So that gets on Akane's nerves sometimes. So he has to stay a guy the entire time, and they have to be able to not be bothered by any of the other people who would rather get with either of them. Like Shampoo can't show up. Ukyo can't show up. Ryoga can't show up. Like nobody that they know can show up. It'd have to just be the two of them the whole time. And I mean, you don't really have control over that because they're crazy and find them whether they want them to be found or not. But those would be the stipulations for a perfect date.
I clearly had a misunderstanding here. I thought part of the joke was that Ranma was such a macho guy that he can't stand being a girl.
He pretends to be.
Huh.
Right? Like he says it bothers him, but then also like the first chance he gets, he will abuse the fact that he could turn into a girl because he's not that different from his dad, who will use any trick in the book to win.
Then you wouldn't think they'd be short of money because I could think of like a million different ways you could probably use that.
They're also bad at managing money. Ranma is often getting them money to help out with the dojo and stuff later on in the series. And even he works at the cat cafe for a little bit. That was trying to get the cure to the cat's tongue thing. But he was working at the cat cafe for a while as a waitress. Like he does a lot of different things throughout the series. But that would be it. It's like A, Ranma has to be a guy the entire date. B, nobody else can show up and bother them. Which these are, one of them is very possible. That's just on Ranma. The other one probably isn't ever going to happen. Even after they're married, probably. That's just their life.
All right. That's amazing. So, okay, now chat. You folks that have stuck around for the show, appreciate it. But it is your turn to decide which of these 4 couples, or 5, is the best.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm voting for Pete and Kitty.
For what?
I'm voting for Pete and Kitty.
Pete and Kitty? Oh,
Yeah.
For Twitless's, yeah.
I'm sorry. I got confused for some reason because I don't know why. But I you said that and I saw your little animation thing.
Oh, Kitty. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, who's
It's
Pete?
P to the 4th power, you know? Peter Parker and Kitty Pryde. And we could just put the K as another P. She could be Pretty Pride now.
Pretty
That's
Pride.
just so she matches.
There you go. So, so far as I don't see anyone typing it away. Maybe nobody cares about our little stupid little contest.
Everyone's just going to put in their own write-in vote.
That's
Right?
fun.
You know, they'll put like Mickey Mouse
Everyone's
and
gonna
Minnie
be
or
like,
something
why
like
didn't you
that.
talk about Green Arrow?
Yeah, oh, we already got one, Mario and Peach.
Yeah,
Technically,
you
they've
were
had
all wrong.
comics.
The
I
answer
think
was
they
Mario and
qualify.
Peach.
You know,
Yep.
before I landed on John and Liz, I did go through Mickey and Minnie, Luigi and Daisy, Sonic and Amy, Sonic and Sally.
I
So,
think as much as I prefer Luigi and Daisy out of those choices, I think that's the one that qualifies the least because Daisy hasn't appeared in as many comics as like the other characters have.
That was one
She's
of the
been almost
reasons I was
absent.
asking a question in the chat about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because they kind of haven't really been doing as many Mario comics lately. So like Mario Land's the last time Daisy was in a comic, and that was before she and Luigi were together.
come on. Well,
Yeah,
I
Sonic
guess the
and-
chat just doesn't care.
Gosh, no.
Don't. Just don't.
Yeah. If I had to vote
I-
for somebody's other than my own, I'd probably vote for Dagwood and Blondie. But I've also just always liked the comic strip. So
Yeah, I think I really enjoy their dynamic as well. I do. I will say that like that Twitless made a really good case for the uniqueness of Kitty Pryde and Peter Parker, but
Yeah.
I don't want to read that comic.
Oh, I feel like I want to seek it out now.
Yeah, no, I don't mean that comic that he shared. I mean, I don't particularly either, but I mean like
The proposed comic.
the proposed comic. Yeah, the future
Yeah.
of Pete and Kitty together. I'm just like, I guess I've just never really cared for Kitty Pryde. I find her kind of a dull character. And so maybe that's part of it. But I'm also a huge MJ guy, so I think that she offers a lot more to Peter Parker because of her damage and her history and her redemption and all the stuff that makes MJ such an intriguing character. I think there's a depth and a
Minus
complexity.
anything that she did in One More Day.
Yes, well, I mean that was One More Day is terrible. It's awful.
Yeah, but we could just forget anything that happened from like the lead up to Civil War and on. Like that, everybody was out of character.
Yeah.
Nobody's been in character since, unless
Yeah.
it's in some like what if story that some actual talented person who cares about the legacy of these characters happened to write.
Well, and I mean, and you don't really get peak MJ after the Clone Saga, right?
Yeah.
That I mean, you there was some peak MJ during the Clone Saga and all that kind of stuff, but you don't really get peak MJ after the Clone Saga. That's just kind of how it is.
So, how long do you have to go with nobody being in character before that we have to accept that as their new character?
Oh no, it is all their new character. We just, it's almost like splitting the canon, right? It's like Disney Star Wars is like almost a completely different thing than the pre-Disney Star Wars. That's just where Marvel's been for like what 20 years now.
Yeah. Civil War was I've said this before. I think Civil War was the death of the Marvel universe, and
I agree.
Despite Kingdom Come being a good book in exclusion, it was also the death knell of the DC universe. There was no coming back from that because everybody took the wrong lessons from it.
So One More Day was only the symptom.
Yeah.
One More Day doesn't happen without Civil War.
Nope.
Like at all.
We're going to have to talk about, I've missed all the main conversations you had about Kingdom Come, I guess.
Yes.
You may have gone into deep discussion about
you need a Kingdom Come Part 7.
Yeah, I don't.
Twitless and I have gone around and around about 4 complete shows talked about Kingdom Come.
Yeah, the thing is that Mark Waid's he's got a very positive, sunny view of the DCU, and it was a refreshing change. Not Kingdom Come, but it came out at a time when the DC was really dark. And it did brighten the universe for a while after that, but then they kept doing all the let's put everything on a course to become Kingdom Come in 25 years, and that's terrible. It's like, no, this is a dark future that we don't want to see,
Right, and that's one of the things. Like I was very, to use the modern parlance, I was very down bad on Kingdom Come for several years after I went back and reread it. And to just kind of explain this a little bit. I had a buddy who reread, this is back in 2014, 2015, something like that. He reread Killing Joke, and he had a take on it that I just really didn't agree with because it didn't jive my memory of Kingdom Come. And he said that specifically he thought that it was very misogynistic. And I'm like, that doesn't feel right. So I went back and reread
The Killing Joke.
Killing Joke.
Okay, not Kingdom Come, because you missed.
Not Kingdom Come. No, Killing Joke.
Okay.
Trust me, we'll get there. But I went back and reread it myself, and I decided I didn't agree with him that it was misogynistic because it's absolutely like misanthropic, right? Like I think The Killing Joke is a travesty on everyone. It destroys everyone's character. It makes Batman complicit. It's there's just ciphers There's very little actual characterization. The actions don't make sense. It's just like
It
an
was my
anti-human
first
book.
hated comic.
It's just an anti-human book, and it's Alan Moore just spewing his misanthropy on the populace, and it was heralded as this artistic tour de force. And the thing is that opinion of me in my mid 30s, was so divorced from my opinion in my early 20s that I was like, well, what else did I get wrong? So I went back and started reading these cornerstone books, and really kind of reshaping my attitudes about them now as a middle-aged man versus as a fresh face just out of my teens, never read anything like this before kind of thing. And I had decided that I really just hated Kingdom Come, but a lot of it was, and one of the things that in talking through Twitless, one of the things he said to me that I really had to shake it out of me was, okay, because a lot of my thing was Kingdom Come set up a trajectory that the DC universe moved toward destruction. From the time that hit the stands, it just moved progressively toward, in this giant gyre, toward the destruction of the universe. It broke all the pillars. But one of the things that Twitless said is, okay, that's an idea, but that's not Kingdom Come, right? That's what people did with it. And I was like, okay. And he's right. I mean, because the point of Kingdom Come was, like you said, was to try to breathe hope back into the dark times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even the way that Alex Ross his art was intended to be aspirational and legendary, right? But immediately after that, everything just started bending toward that, and that was editorial. That was Dan DiDio coming in and his checklist of people to kill, and that was a lot of it was a lot of things, and it wasn't and it was something that was meant to be an Elseworlds that started becoming the fodder for everything,
Right?
And that's
just like the Killing
just
Joke.
like Dark Knight, just like Dark Knight, which
Mhm.
yeah,
and instead of being something that's like a standalone, its own compartmentalized thing, and that's not Mark Waid's fault, but
That's true.
but because Mark Waid and Grant Morrison teamed up together with their whole hypertime idea and did plotted the kingdom together, Grant Morrison does want to ruin everything. Right. And
Yeah.
so because Mark Waid has bad friends, he undercut everything he thought he was trying to do with Kingdom Come by being a party to the destruction of the DC universe. So I can't hate on Kingdom Come like I want to.
yeah.
But I do point to that being a time when the DC universe that I grew to love died.
I feel like this is kind of like saying.
How'd we get on this? I'm sorry.
I don't
mean
remember
to
how we
derail
got on it. I was waiting for the chat to tell us which of the things they liked best, and nobody agreed
Nobody's
with
saying
any of
anything.
us.
Yeah.
So
Listen, they're here to for the ride. They're not here to work.
The thing about it's hard to capture the zeitgeist of a time in retrospect. And it's like, if you don't remember what it was exactly like reading in that year and the previous year, this is a time when all the characters that we liked had been like Dr. Fate was a woman, and then Dr. Fate was a guy with he was just called Fate.
yeah.
Something. And Hawkman had been ruined, and Wonder Woman, they had changed her time thing, so she's not in the Justice League. Batman's not in the Justice League. Superman's not in the Justice League. The Justice League is made up of a bunch of crummy third raters. It's like Nucleon and Obsidian and a few other. It's like it's a terrible team. It's certainly not the world's greatest superheroes, and so many of the titles were just bad. Wonder Woman was like in black outfit. Like they changed it so that she's wearing some kind of like biker shorts or something, and then she was not Wonder Woman, and this is the time of Guy Gardner Warrior, and all this. There's a lot of bad comics coming out from DC at the time, Extreme Justice and stuff like that, and then you get Kingdom Come comes out, and it's the big seven all back again, even if it's not all the same characters. It captures so much of what it was like to like DC Comics, but this is Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are the big three, and they're in the Justice League, even if it's in the future, and then, but Batman won't join, but you know what I mean? It's right. There's so much of this kind of recalling how good, the DCU is when it's at its best. And that kind of changed the angle of things and for the next couple of years. And I've said we should probably do the Silver Age event. You remember the Silver Age event? We should do that some week and talk about it, because it is really an attempt to capture some of that good old beloved characters that they still didn't really have. Justice League finally came back. Grant Morrison brought it back and brought back the Big Seven and brought back, what we really think of as a Justice League. And for a long time, that was good.
And the thing that's the thing is, like, as much as I bash on Morrison, and I do, the beginning of his JLA series was revelatory.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was great about it, and even when Mark Waid was writing, took on after that, his Justice League stuff, and that was really good. And his work on the Flash just before that was really good.
Yeah.
But like, once again, when they let them introduce Hyper Time and they started pulling those characters in from wherever else, and then you had Starman was just great. I love Starman. And even though Starman had some like dark themes in it, it still was like made out of hope.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I just thought was great. And so then you have, but when they start pulling in these elements from Kingdom Come, it just starts, and then in the Justice Society, in the JSA book, once again that starts really strong, but then like the writers, they can't help but keep getting it darker and darker again.
Right.
And they'll try to brighten it up, but then they say, then we've got, and it's that
they start bringing out Magog. They bring out Gog and Magog, and it's like
even pulling, the Kingdom Come Superman shows up for reasons. Well, because everybody loved it. So, and we've got, and it's just, people loved it in Exclusion, when we just let's make sure that we're moving the universe ever closer to the Kingdom Come event. That's not as good, because Kingdom Come is predicated, because this is part of the thing. Kingdom Come is predicated upon the heroes of today being failures. Right? So, in 98 or whatever it was that it came out with, right? In Exclusion, okay, how do let's build a redemption story? Well, because we already are dealing with a lot of darkness. You got Hal becoming Parallax and then becoming the Spectre. And like, that was, a hard thing to go. Personally, I liked him as the Spectre, but I can understand why people didn't.
Right.
Right. And especially because that whole heel turn was not in character for Hal.
Yeah.
I really like Kyle, so I thought I had him being ushered off the stage in some way, I think made sense, because I thought Kyle was a great character, but the way they did it was not great.
Yeah. But that's what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Fill in for Twitless here and be like, this has absolutely nothing to do with what we were talking about, and do we need to be talking about Kingdom Come for another episode?
Yeah. So let's go ahead. Nobody called in there. Let's just pool the panel. after we've all gave our cases and everything, which couple do you guys think or which one of us did the best job of pitching their couple?
If I
Yeah,
can't,
like I said, I'm gonna have to switch my vote to Twitless.
Okay, it's Twitless. Okay.
He made me care.
if
Hutch,
I can't vote for my own, I would vote for John and Liz as a couple. Yeah, that's a good choice. It is, and they're not a perfect couple, but they are, they that's what I like about it, is that they kind of are a rough fit,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that they finally let a little bit of development happen there, and it didn't keep them in that. John just kept in that spot. Metal, what do you think? Who do you think did the best job of pitching?
I already gave you the answer, right? Like, if I can't choose mine, I'm going with Dagwood and Blondie.
Okay, well, I do remember you saying that. Oh, and I guess if I can't choose mine,
It'd be great if we ended with a round robin where everybody supports everybody.
well, see. Okay, so here's my hard thing: is like, if I can't choose mine, and I'm not sure I would choose mine, because I'm not sure I did the best job of doing that. I love what Hutch had to say about Ralph and Sue, but I also love Ralph and Sue, so I might just be biased on that.
Wow.
And I'm not that familiar with Rom the One Half like at all.
Right.
So I'm trying to like, and I know, so I'm trying to like say like, okay, my ignorance of that topic, how does that factor in? But I guess I'll have to go with Twitless because I was so opposed to the idea of it,
And he sold you on it.
and he did win me over.
He totally shocked us with that one.
Yeah, it was a surprise, and I was immediately opposed because I just hate Ultimate Spider-Man so much. But
is that what you meant? I did not realize that.
Oh no, I just
I also hate the Ultimate Spider-Man.
In fact, like I said, I didn't get past issue 9 because it was so derivative and boring that I was noped out immediately.
You spent like a year redoing what was like a few pages in the original.
Yeah, the first
Spider-Man
16
comic.
pages of Spider-Man. It's been a year to finish off. That's
Funny,
why
didn't Stan Lee himself work on that?
No.
No.
Okay.
Stan Lee hasn't written Spider-Man hadn't, because he's passed. He hadn't written Spider-Man except for the newspaper strip since like I think 83, 82, something like that.
Yeah, no. At that time, he had already moved on to things like, Stripperella and stuff like that, which would have been a great topic for Valentine's Day.
I don't want to do the research I would need to do to address
You
Stripperella.
yourself said not to bring in the AIDS.
I've seen Stripperella, and
It's funny.
Yeah,
It's got charm.
I loved John Lovitz's character Cheapo. He's like the Riddler, except he's got like cent symbols, like the cent, not dollar, but cent symbols all over his body, and he's just like really cheap. I don't know how else to explain it, and it's a typical John Lovitz voice, and it's a terrific character, and it's like you wouldn't think that Stripperella would be an interesting show, but it's well written. I gotta say that. So yeah,
it is. It's very funny, like great sense of humor.
We could talk about like all the shows that came out for that. What was it? Spike TV, the Spike TV animation block that they did, because I love that. I particularly love to talk about that because they did Stripperella. They also did This Just In, which was an amazing show, and it's like nobody remembers it anymore except for me. And then the Ren and Stimpy adult party cartoon, which
I remember that.
Yeah, is like it had like 4
Ren and
episodes.
Stimpy wasn't horrible. Adult enough.
Yeah. Oh, it was. Yeah.
Man. Funny fact, and then we'll call the show here.
Sure.
Ren and Stimpy has always made like my stomach upset. Right? There's this I don't know. I don't mean like literally, like if I get queasy.
Oh wow.
Like watching or reading Ren and Stimpy.
That's one of the intended effects. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like they have there is a meme in children's education about having the tummy hurt being a way sometimes kids talk about emotional stress because they don't have a vocabulary to discuss it. That's me with Ren and Stimpy. I just have always been like, no, I don't know what it is.
My dad and I used to watch it together. It was fun.
I don't have the constitution, I guess. Okay, well that is it. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Twitless wins and he's not even here. And
minimal
Luigi
effort.
wins by doing
Walks in, does it, wins.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Hopefully it was fun to watch for everybody. Next week, no show. So, yeah. I will be away, and I have Wednesday night plans. I'm going to be visiting with some people, so I don't want to try to make a show happen with all that other stuff. So, that is the story. Then in 2 weeks, I am not sure what we're doing in 2 weeks. Maybe if we got 2 weeks, maybe we'll look at that Silver Age event.
Okay.
There should be enough time to read that.
Okay.
That sounds fun. We'll talk about it in the back channels, but I think that sounds like a good time to do that. No Ash Wednesday comics. Because next week is Ash Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'd be tempted to do Ash on Ash Wednesday, but that seems sacrilegious. We're just not going to do it. I ain't even Catholic.
We all have to bring something that had to do with Ash. Half of us just bring Pokemon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I thought you meant like Evil Dead. Okay.
No. I was talking about that. Yeah. I was
There's
thinking
so
about
many
Ash,
ways
like
we could do this.
I was thinking of Joe Quesada's Ash.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought for sure you meant Bruce Campbell. Okay.
Oh yeah. No, that'd
be a great one too. Yeah.
Give me some sugar, baby.
Man, you could have done that.
But we're not. So
hey, at least we didn't actually cover one more day this Valentine's Day. That was a previous show.
Oh yeah, that was a couple.
Already makes it a better Valentine's Day.
There you go.
That was awful. I think
That
I
was
think
my
I could
bad.
blame. I was gonna say I think I blame Cartoonicus.
Yeah, that was my bad.
That was such a terrible show. Go back and watch it though. It was a fun conversation if you like seeing me in pain. So, if you like to hear my soul dying, go check it out. Link in the comments below. It's not, but
Well, I mean,
anyway.
what didn't help was Twitless defending half of it.
Yeah.
But you needed that, or else it would have been a boring show.
That's true.
Hey, before we
Sonic
go, could you show the cartoon that I shared there? Because we were talking about Arbuckle, where somebody downloaded, they downloaded Garfield and changed it. This is a short-lived strip called The Nameless Dread. Bill Keane squashed it too, where it was somebody took the Family Circus and put in H.P. Lovecraft quotes. I think there's about 21 of them. I have them all saved to my hard drive because they got yanked really fast. But they are very funny. So anyway, there's this is one of the less
that actually could be a fun episode too sometime, where we could all bring in a comic panel or strip and replace it with famous literature and see who comes up with the funniest combination.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the other thing I hope
the best gifts are the ones you make. So there you go. Yeah.
Also, I hope to have the rules figured out for the New Yorker comic.
Oh, we're still doing that.
We are still doing that.
Okay.
I'm hoping to have the rules for that figured out by the next time we have a show. So, but that's still happening, and I'm still going to put a little money on it. So, cash prize. Okay. That's it for the show. Thank you much, guys. This is Reese, and for the whole gang, this is Monitor Duty signing out. Get out there and read some comics, everybody. Bye.